Dante's buried in Santa Croce, which is right by where I lived, which is just down the street from there.
Okay.
And that's where his kind of statue and tribute is.
Yeah. There's Dante's Inferno, I think, right on the inside of the Duomo. It's insane. That was all painted by one man. And it's a big-ass dome.
Yeah, the Sistine
Big-ass
Chapel,
dome.
too. It's like what Robin Williams said in, what's that movie?
Patch Adams?
Definitely not Pat. Good Will Hunting. Good Will Hunting.
Welcome back to Drop a Pin. Today we have special guest Matthew Piper Jenks. I forgot his first name before this started, but hey, I knew his last time. I always just call him Jenks. You may know him as the person who saved Frank the Tank's life. You also may know him as the one who brought Che to a Knicks game, courtside. Not only Che, I think you brought Brandon Walker too.
Brandon Walker.
Okay.
Glenny Balls.
Well, he has not brought anyone on this podcast to an NBA game.
That's
so
right.
We would go.
We would.
Yeah.
Okay, noted.
I am just thrilled that you included me that time.
Yes. Yep, I did. But I don't know. I'm a big Celtics fan, so does that mean I'm probably not going to be getting an invite?
To be honest with you, I've had a little bit of a hard year with the NBA relationship-wise. I've loved the NBA my entire life, and I'm not like an old man yelling at the clouds type of person, so I don't even tweet about it much. But the way it's played nowadays, I just have a hard time watching it, just being honest. It's not that they're worse players. It's not an insult. It's just a different game now. Mm-hmm. They're focused on the analytics, which means either shoot a layup or a three-pointer. And I think it's lost the essence of basketball, which I think the easiest way to describe that is when you play pickup hoops. The way you call fouls and the way you compete, that should be the way the NBA is played at the highest level. Instead, it's like ticky-tack bullshit and three-pointers, and I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm taking a little break.
Okay, Chaps is out on the NBA.
Nope, that's Jenks.
Man, he really doesn't know our names.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
crazy.
Jenks is out
That
on the
was
NBA.
wild.
Boom. I got it. Well, I even know his middle name. It's Matthew Piper Jenks.
There you go.
Piper is a cool-ass name.
What's my first name?
Matthew.
There it is.
Boom. We got two Matts.
That's right.
Now, so did you start off as just a fan of Barstool and then started helping out Frank, started helping Frank out with some bids and, people saw what good work you were doing with him that it eventually got you the full-time offer? Is that the abridged version?
Yeah, I think that's fair. It was especially when COVID hit. A lot of things in my life happened all at once where I was working for this guy, Brett Adcock, who's the founder of Figure, which is going to be the biggest humanoid robot company in the world. So mark my words, Brett Adcock will be a person that your kids will know about when they're adults. So I worked directly for that guy at his first company, Vettery. And when I was there, I was totally locked into work. After Vettery, COVID hit, and I moved to the beach in California, and I was totally isolated. I mean, you literally couldn't go up and speak to a stranger, and I didn't know anybody there. So I really started watching a lot of Barstool because you guys were the only ones putting shit out. You guys were the only ones producing new content. And then at a certain point, I really made a decision in my head that I'm not getting any younger. Why don't I just take a big swing at this? Mm-hmm. And I wasn't quite sure what the right angle would be, but it worked out that Steven agreed to come to a Knicks game with me. We built off of that. And then the reason it really worked with Frank, to Frank's credit, was he was the only one that reciprocated right away and said, would you like to come to a Devils game with me? And would you like to come to the Mets game with me? And it really was a friendship. And then I started getting clips of him, and it escalated very quickly.
Yeah. Was it your idea to start the Frank Walk series?
Mikey Bett's idea.
Okay.
Mikey took me aside in the parking lot after I'd been working with Frank for about 6 or 7 months, and he said, listen, Jenks, because Mikey's known Frank longer than me, and, Mikey can drive me nuts, but I wouldn't have this job, and none of this would have happened without him, and I'll always be in debt to him for that. But he took me aside, and Frank's calves were so purple, and he just really didn't look good that particular weekend, for whatever reason, looked very disheveled, whatever. And he's like, Jenks, you're the only one I think right now that could actually take him aside and tell him, like, we need to do something. And to Mikey's credit, Mikey really got in my face that I need to get in his face. And the craziest part was after we did that first walk, literally from the Barstool office to Chelsea Market, which is like maybe a 15-minute walk. We took an Uber back, by the way. He hasn't missed a day. I think it's been 545 consecutive days.
That's so crazy.
And the last 2 days, without any like particular focus or effort, he has walked 22,000 steps consecutively, which is equivalent to a half a marathon.
Wow.
Holy shit.
So if this motherfucker could get his diet just even into the moderate, it's not even that he eats in excess. He just eats such crappy food. He has such a bad palate.
He also like hates the taste of water, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
he
that's
thinks
always
like
gonna be a problem.
fried and grease is what he's used to.
Even out of like a hose? What about if it like that's my favorite type of water? It's straight from the hose.
He loves Body Armor, honestly. So he drinks their sport water nonstop, and Body Armor's been a huge help getting him off the soda. So from a liquid perspective, a lot of people underestimate how important that is with diet. If you don't drink alcohol and soda and all that stuff, it's so much easier to stay in better shape.
Yeah.
But the food is what kills him. That guy just does not like healthy food.
Yeah.
Like genuinely, it's tough.
Like
So I'm sure you spend a lot of time talking about Frank and like your relationship, which makes sense. But I don't think I've ever had or heard a conversation with you just about your life and what you get into and what you enjoy and some of your experiences. So I'd really like to focus on that, like you.
Yes. I think I only have one Frank the Tank related question. The rest of this pod, we're going to be talking about travel, as it is Drop a Pin, and you have lived abroad in not only one country, but two. You've lived for over a year in Florence?
I lived in Florence for 4 years after college.
Oh.
And I lived in Belgium for 2 years out in farmland in first and second grade.
Okay. Well,
so that was about 94 to 96.
Okay, well, that's
I'm
going to be
old.
the main bulk of this podcast. The only Frank the Tank question I want to get out of the way first is what would you say is like one memory you have that would be the low point of traveling with Frank the Tank, and what would be one high point of traveling with Frank the Tank? Because I'm sure you guys have taken plenty of flights together.
Okay, so the high point is very easy. We've done so many cool things, so many cool people we've met, and I'm really grateful for all of it. But nothing will ever hit me, or I think Frank, and there's a clip of this that Goldfinger can put in. Aaron, there's a guy named Aaron who follows Frank, and he started walking because Frank, does Frank walks. He was in heart failure, medically speaking. And he managed to walk his way out of it. He's now done 500 straight days. So he started 40 days after Frank. Shit. But this was about a year and a half ago. So if you rewind the clock to last year's spring training, so not a year and a half ago, like a year ago, he walked up to Frank at a ball game and he said, "Hey, Frank, I just really want to thank you. You've completely changed my life. I have this serious heart issue, but I've started walking." And Frank doesn't even know how to react. He's so used to fans, he'll always smile, put the thumbs up. He was stunned, and you see him very awkwardly, almost not making eye contact because the guy's thanking Frank for saving his life, and then they end up giving each other a hug. And Frank hasn't had a lot of love in his life, so those seeing something like that was very special. Low point when he made us stay to Super 8, and I went into my room and a man was sitting on my bed.
Was he naked?
No.
Okay.
He said sorry and ran out. That was it was insane.
At least he apologized.
What do you mean when you say Frank made us stay at a Super 8?
Frank is a very unique individual. When he gets fixated on something, you have to pick your battles. That day, I was not going to die on the Super 8 hill. Does that make sense?
Yeah, don't make your last ditch stand in the
There's a
wrong ditch.
lot of fights I got to fight every day, so you just got to be very selective.
Is there something he likes about Super 8 motels?
I can't remember for the life of me why that. It probably was the location or proximity to a walking location or something.
Yeah, okay.
The best part was he didn't know what happened that night, and I was so exhausted from being with Frank, as I always am, that when this man ran out, I'm not proud to say I just ripped all the shit off and went to bed. I was like, I'll deal with it in the morning. So when I went into the lobby, Frank was sitting there, and I explained to the front desk guy, there was a man in my room last night. I feel like I should get like 50% off or something. And the guy literally looked me dead in the eye and was like, "This is a Super 8, not a Fortress." And the laugh from the fucking peanut gallery from Fleming, just, oh my God. So that was a personal point. Yeah, Frank. And when Frank does the impression, he throws the accent on it, and you could imagine. Yeah.
When I met Frank, he would have to always fly first class because he was just so large. Now, does he like fly coach with you?
So he definitely could, but no. And for the record, because he gets his balls busted a lot for being a diva, he pays out of pocket to upgrade if he's doing a company flight.
Okay.
What he has managed to do, though, is he doesn't need the seatbelt extender anymore. And I think that's like people don't understand
just the mental aspect of that.
These little mental victories, it's so much more than like what you weigh. You put on muscle when you lose fat. Muscle weighs more than fat, but these little victories, and especially for a person that's not used to it, it's so fun to watch.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, I'm not a big gym guy. I don't have a crazy workout regimen, but I just love to walk. So, if I'm heading somewhere, and even if it's a 25, 35-minute walk, I'll walk instead of getting an Uber.
Makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's really,
it adds up.
That's all you got to do, something small like that. And yeah, I've gone on one of Frank walks. It was in Chicago in the middle of the winter.
Yes, the zoo, right?
Yeah, it was in the zoo. It was cold as balls. They actually have the lions out there in the middle of the winter.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I was shocked by that.
That's fucked up.
What are they supposed to go?
I don't know. I just thought, like, maybe they would have, like, an indoor. I think maybe they do have an indoor room for them.
They have to have a spot where they, like, let them go inside some. Otherwise, imagine the conversation between those lions. Like, what the fuck is this, dude?
Yeah.
Why are we here?
Like, lions weren't bred to survive a Chicago winter.
No.
So you mentioned you lived in Florence for 4 years. That's a place I've been to a few times as well. So you want to focus on that at first? What prompted you to move there?
So I went to college in North Carolina, Elon University, and I could never quite wrap my head around the idea of pledging for a frat, because you have to like prove yourself to people to have the right to be their friend, but you don't even really know if you like these people. So that logic just, and like with the friends I grew up with, like that's not how, you don't like bend the knee for a stranger. You just don't do that.
Yeah.
So long story short, I was kind of like on the outside of college, if that makes sense. And I ended up studying abroad, and I went to Florence. I had taken French classes. I think I technically passed via a Spanish exam, my actual lingual requirement in college. And then I studied abroad in Florence. This ended up leading to me becoming a poetry major, because my advisor took me aside and was like, "Matt, I don't know what you've been doing here, but like you've taken biology, philosophy." I was taking like every class. The only way you can graduate on time, if you want to graduate on time, is English major with a focus in writing poems, literally. Okay. And that's what I had to do after I decided to study abroad in Florence. And the reason I went was pretty simple. I got an email in October of my junior year saying, "Hey, anybody last second, we don't have enough people for our spring study abroad." And the study abroad was done through a very small school in Florence. Now, this is the key for anybody out there that's still in college. If you're going to study abroad, I highly recommend trying to use the smallest, most local program you can find. Meaning, don't go to a really big generic study abroad program where you're just going to be surrounded by Americans the whole time. I went to Accademia Europea di Firenze, which was run by Idi Frolano and Massimo, and these wonderful Italians, these locals that loved the history, loved the culture, and loved to share it in a really genuine way. And when I was there, I was a total knucklehead. I went out, I could drink 2-3 bottles of wine, 4 Negronis, Sambuca shots. I was an animal back in college.
Yeah. Negronis are disgusting.
I just love Negronis.
I love a Negroni.
Oh, God, get them out of here. I think it's one of popular cocktails, one of my... I would say it is my least.
I love it.
So do you just hate the Campari? Because
Yes.
that's a very bitter taste.
Yeah,
Okay.
I hate it. And I don't mind bitter stuff. It's just, I feel like it takes away all that is good about whiskey.
I don't.
There's no whiskey
I
in
don't
it.
see the
Wait, well,
connection.
which one is?
Oh,
Oh,
a Negroni's Campari and then gin.
oh no, I'm thinking something
And Martini
different. Carry
Rosso.
on.
Yeah.
Oh, Manhattan is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, no.
I hate a
Okay.
Manhattan.
Yeah,
Yes.
no. So anyway, sorry if I'm rambling, just cut me off. But the teacher, I should say the director of the school, Edie Furlano, was this old Italian woman, and she and her husband Rodolfo, who spoke no English, they never could have kids. So she really thought of her students as like her kids, and she really could see how much I loved being there, even though I was a terrible student with no intention of learning Italian, because there would be no reason I could possibly use Italian in my life. I was just studying abroad.
Yeah.
So I leave, I get back to North Carolina frat life, and I was so aggravated by the culture around me, put it that way. I was like, I need to get the fuck out of here for a while. And everybody thought I was crazy. They already thought I was crazy because I was the poetry major. Like, what are you going to do with that? I was like, I'm going to move to fucking Italy.
Yeah.
So I started emailing the Italians, Edie specifically, every week. And then after like 6 months, she said, if you can get one college to work with us, maybe we could get you to come out here and be our director of international relations and get new American schools to work with us. So I cold called and emailed, I swear to God, every college, everybody you can imagine. Shout out to Bay Path Community College in Longmeadow, Massachusetts, all girls community college.
That's the fourth time we've had that on this show.
Bay Path?
Well, they're legends. They agreed to do a program to send 2 students out. The owner of the school invited me to come out for the summer. After 2 weeks, they pulled me into a room, lit a cigarette, and asked me to cancel my flight home. And then I was there for 4 years.
Nice.
Okay. And your main responsibility was recruiting new students to study abroad at that university?
So one of the things I've been lucky and also intentional with in my career is I try to work as close to owners as I can, because whatever your starting job is irrelevant in terms of the upside. And that's why a lot of young people fuck that up. They think if they get a good role at a really fancy company, that's great. You're never going to have any access to the actual people in power, and it just looks good on paper. Whereas if you bet on yourself at a smaller company and work with somebody directly that's really smart, it can have a huge impact. So when I went there, yes, that was the initial thing. By the end of my run, I could speak Italian. I knew every single local place. I was the emergency phone line. So if a girl was walking home from the club and a guy was following her, this happened multiple times, I'd get on my bike, get out there, and just basically show up and the guy would wander off, kind of thing. To chaperoning, we'd go all over Italy, Tuscany, go down to southern Italy, Positano, and this was work. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it seems like you had a better experience there than a few of my friends who went abroad to Florence, because like they were in one of those huge programs and they're like, yeah, only hung out with Americans, never talked to like a single Italian chick. One of the local bars would have like beer pong nights, so they would just like spend their nights playing beer pong at a bar
Lions
in Italy.
Fountain or Uncle Jimmy's.
And they're like, yeah, I don't feel like I really got the full Italian experience. They're like, it was fucking awesome. We had a blast, but they didn't really get immersed in the culture at all. But you ended up learning Italian.
Yeah, so it was pretty funny. It was a small school, and in terms of our staff, like running, first of all, it's Italy, so it's a different culture. Okay, we're talking like 2-hour lunches. We're talking tranquillo. They have something called Ferragosto, which means you just take August off.
Yes,
like
they
literally,
do.
you just take August off.
Fucking
So it's
sweet.
it's just a different like setup from jump. I forgot what my point was. What did you just say?
Well, just that, like my friends who went to Florence, they never got immersed in the culture.
So what they did with the language for me was each of them probably spoke on average 4 languages, in our staff, because we had a couple Japanese people, a Russian person, Venezuelan person. They figured after 6 months, any fucking idiot would pick up the language, like in an honest way. And I was doing 3 hours of class every day in the mornings. After 6 months, I had made very little progress, but they all stopped speaking English to me. This was when I truly got good at sales. For a year, I was doing meetings with my colleagues, and I would have to talk in these meetings, and I would pre-prepare what my statement was and try to make it a flexible enough statement so that almost no matter what came up, and I had no idea what they were talking about, what I said could be like somewhat intelligent. And sometimes it worked, and sometimes they'd all look at each other and be like, he doesn't understand a fucking word, does he? It took a whole nother year. So it was a year and a half until I actually was fully functional. And that was like magical when that happened. And for anybody that feels like, oh, I can't do languages, I can't do this, I can't do that. If you stay at it, you can. You're just too fucking lazy and you're giving up on yourself.
Absolutely. I failed 3 in college.
You failed 3 language classes in college?
Yeah.
Dude, I took Spanish like all throughout college because you had to at my college. But then, you know, I moved to China. Any like Spanish knowledge I had got replaced with the really shitty Chinese that I learned.
San Subulio Chibajo, sure.
He just counted 10 in Chinese.
Dang.
See, I know that. But now it's just like I speak really, really shitty Spanish and really, really shitty Chinese.
Was that actually good?
Yeah, that was pretty solid. Counted to 10.
And then once you can do that, you can basically go to 100.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I also lived in Italy for a year. I've learned 0 Italian.
Bravo.
I think I learned ciao.
Come un americano.
I learned almost nothing.
Jesus Christ.
I was living
Ciao. I caught your producer last night on Who Can't Sleep. He like in front of Hannah was acting like he could speak Italian. And I was just in a very friendly, excited way. I was like, oh, di dove sei? And he totally blanked. I know the look of like getting caught pretending that you speak another language. Literally didn't even understand where are you from. Yeah. And then I just went with what's your name, and he's still nothing. Not even what's your name.
Yeah.
I'm studying Italian. It's just my new class hasn't started. I need to refresh myself a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck that means.
So, yeah, I mean, I was living in Venice, though, and there's just so many tourists there.
Venice, yeah.
I was working from home. I wasn't working with any Italian people, so I just had very few opportunities to speak it. But I did make it down to Florence 2 or 3 times while I was there, and my first impression was just how much better the food was in Florence than it was in Venice. I just love that type of Italian food so much more. What were some of your favorite things to eat when you lived there?
Yeah, so I maybe Goldfinger will be able to pull this up, but I made like no money, but everybody knew that I worked at a school that had really pretty college girls. So I basically had a standing €15 agreement across the board, all the clubs, all the restaurants, cafes, everything, because they knew if I came in, you know, I'd eventually 5 or 10 girls would show up, and then they'd bring in 20 guys, and they'd all have their parents' credit cards. So there's a ton of restaurants and stuff I loved. Yeah. But the thing I cherish the most about Toscana and the food there and how different it is when I would make my chicken vegetable soup every day, I'd get my chicken from my butcher, I'd get my seasonings from my seasonings guy, I'd get my bell peppers and vegetables from my vegetables guy. Everything was fresh. I literally had one guy just for olives and like olive oil paste, and it would come fresh from the hills of Tuscany on a daily basis. So when you cook with ingredients like that, a couple things happen. First of all, it's very hard to fuck it up. So even a dummy like me, I was making these incredibly delicious like stews, just sprinkling everything together.
Yeah.
And then secondly, when everything's fresh and not processed, you can eat like a king and walk around all day, and everyone's skinny.
Yeah.
And it's not complicated at all. They eat fresh food, and they normally walk around.
Yeah, I think it's always surprising when folks that haven't traveled much will go to Europe, and they'll be like, I ate more than I've ever eaten in my whole life, and I came back 10 pounds lighter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the case for me. I ate and drank as much as I usually do here in the U.S., but the pounds just shut it off, and I still haven't gained back that weight. Pre-Italy and post-Italy, I think I was 30 pounds heavier.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I didn't really even notice I was losing that much weight until I came back to the U.S. and got a lot of compliments.
That's how I was on a Vyvanse prescription.
That's also an easy way. Either move to Europe or start taking Adderall or Vyvanse, and those pounds will just shut off.
Or cocaine.
Yeah, that's a little more dangerous.
Okay.
Can't fully recommend that.
So my mother did the Peace Corps, and she was in Senegal in like the 70s. And when I was in Florence, the bouncers at all the clubs happened to be Senegalese.
Shout out Manute Bol.
So shout out Manute Bol. One of their local languages is Wolof. So my mother knows a little bit, like tiny bit of Wolof. So I mentioned that to these guys. They ended up becoming my gym guys. So when I lived in Florence, ironically, I used to go to this really scrappy gym and work out with these big Senegalese dudes. My guys, Zoolander, Abraham, just like chic, like a crazy crew of dudes.
He just chose to name himself Zoolander?
They all had like monikers for obvious reasons. And
Okay, yeah.
yeah, it was really fun because I was in my early 20s. So like I'd show up wherever I wanted. They'd act like I was Tom Cruise, just take me right to the top table and
That's awesome.
just do whatever you want. Yeah.
Were you a fan of Florentine steak when you were there? They're very famous for their steak,
Bistecca Fiorentina.
which they prepare very raw. It's a very raw steak. I love it, but I did have one close call.
Like black and blue style, kind of.
I don't really know what black and blue style is.
Oh, where you just like flash grill it essentially. You'll have like a cast iron pan.
A little bit more than that, but
Yeah.
some places are like that, and I loved it. There's
Yeah.
different places go to different levels.
Mm-hmm.
If you're there, always look for the osterias and trattorias. In America, they're fugazi, but in Italy, it means that it's a family-run restaurant for at least, I believe, 2 generations with its own recipes. So no matter what, you really can't miss when you go to a trattoria or an osteria.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, there's 2 big places I would flag to have like some of the best steaks of your life in Florence. One is La Giostra, Giostra on Borgo Pinti. It's a really famous place that a lot of people would probably know of. Absolutely gorgeous. Like inside, you can see it there. It's like magical.
Only 4.4 on Google, though.
I used to eat there all the time, and that guy's a legend. But the best place is called La Reggia, Reggia, which is in Fiesole, which a lot of people don't know. Florence is in a valley. And in old Europe, you would obviously start your villages on top of hills. So people know of Piazza Michelangelo, which overlooks Florence, and they think that's the great view. They don't realize the real view is Fiesole, and that is, according to really legend and history, where Florence came from. That's where the Etruscans set up back in, I think, the 1500s, pre-Renaissance, and it eventually bled down into what became Florence, which was then the birthplace of the Renaissance.
Yes.
And for anybody that doesn't know about the Renaissance, those are your Ninja Turtles, Leonardo, Michelangelo, all those boys basically brought the world out from the darkness, from the Dark Ages, and everything we love today in art, music, and culture in some way ties back to the Renaissance.
Yeah.
Now, to go back to my point, on top of Fiesole, there's a couple of gems. So Fiesole is this tiny village. It still exists. And for whatever reason, with all the tourists in Florence, nobody knows about Fiesole. Maybe this will be the thing that ruins it. Sorry to everybody there. But you can either take the number 7 bus from Piazza Annunziata, or you just take a cab. It's about 15 minutes up. And if you probably get some better pictures, but you can see you overlook the entire valley. In La Reggia, when you get off the bus, it looks like it's somebody's driveway, but you walk right uphill. And this restaurant, the owner's name is Leonardo. He played in Calcio Storico, which we'll talk about.
Yep.
Total badass. I used to go there every single weekend, and they would just give me a flat rate. I could eat and drink whatever I wanted. And then on the very top, there's a very old church, and beneath it, a Chinese missionary museum. It's so strange. And the other legend is that that's where Einstein used to go to clear his head anytime he was in Italy.
Okay.
Specifically, Einstein would go up to Fiesole. There's a rock. They
Yeah.
would say it was Einstein's rock.
Sick. One quick story about the steak. We were
didn't
eating,
know
me and
that.
my wife and like 6 friends were eating in a small village in Tuscany, and we ordered the steak Florentino, very raw. We were having a great time, drinking wine, laughing a lot. And
don't
all
know
of a
if it'll come
sudden,
up.
my wife starts choking. And this is like a really small restaurant where the chef is out there amongst all the tables, walking from table to table. And everybody thought I was joking when like I got up and I started giving her the Heimlich maneuver. And like people kind of thought it was just like a prank. Even the chef is like staring at us being like, what the fuck is going on? But then sure enough, she coughed up the steak.
Jesus.
And they were like, holy fuck, she was actually choking.
Not just a goof.
It was not just a goof. You got to be sure to like really chew that steak.
Okay.
Yeah. And I could tell that the chef was mortified.
Is
'cause
it
he was-
thin?
No, it's not that thin. They're
It's
pretty big chunks.
It's not usual to choke on it.
Okay.
It's, well,
It's
hopefully not.
It's generally enjoyed. It's some of the best steak in the
I mean,
world.
if
It's
It
just
like
an
melts in your
epidemic
mouth.
of
In fact, it
people
like
choking
normally
on it.
melts in your mouth kind of thing. But
if you were making food that like it was normal to choke on, I don't think it would be that popular. But yeah, crisis averted.
Good.
But then she almost choked again like 10 minutes later just because we were laughing so much at this dinner. But incredible food there.
Yeah. So going back to your point about people not having the best experience when they studied abroad, I think for you guys having so much experience abroad, you can probably speak to this as well, obviously. But I think one of the biggest mistakes, and especially now with the internet and everything, not to sound like an old man, that people make is they're really making a lot of conclusions about the world based on what they think they have access to on their screens, their phone, their computer, their TVs. And they don't go out and actually see what's out there. And it will blow your fucking mind if you get out of your little bubble. And no hate to anybody that obviously is struggling or doesn't have the means to do it. That's a different story. But if you have the ability, get out of your bubble and go experience other cultures. And when you do it, I think the biggest thing is to not stay at the fancy hotel and do all the basic things on the travel guide, but try to figure out a place where you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that lives there. Mm-hmm. And when you go to a new place, if you have a local show you around, I would argue you'll enjoy almost anywhere in the world with the right host. And
except Chad.
With the wrong approach, you can hate almost
Delhi, India.
any city in the world.
Yeah.
It's like if you go to Manhattan and you go to Times Square, you're going to fucking hate Manhattan. If you go to Florence and you just go to see the David and you don't do anything else, you're going to hate Florence. And that's what breaks my heart when I hear people bash, these incredible cities across the world. I'm just like, you don't know how to travel. Mm-hmm. This reflects on you, not this incredible city.
Although, to be fair, the Duomo, which is that like the large dome in the middle of Florence, that's like probably the biggest tourist attraction. That does live up to the hype, I'd say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like
so I used to bike around that every day. We used to hold concerts out there. So if you ever go to Florence, and an old Italian man told me this, and it's true, one of the few out-of-body joys in life you can experience is having 3 Negronis, waiting till the sun goes down, and then biking a few laps around the Duomo. It is the best. It is, because it's totally quiet, and if you pull up pictures of the Duomo at night, it's some of the most incredible art and architecture you'll ever see in your life. And I used to do that like every night. I'd bike out to the bars, and then I would bike home and just do laps around this thing. No, that's the wrong one. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the Duomo. And then
that's beautiful.
On the ceiling of the Duomo, is that where Dante's Inferno was painted? I think there's definitely a giant mural by Michelangelo inside
the inside
Duomo.
art of the Duomo, I don't know that well. I only went inside once or twice, to be honest. I was always biking around it.
Yeah.
But Dante's buried in Santa Croce, which is right by where I lived, which is just down the street from there.
Okay.
And that's where his kind of statue and tribute is.
Yeah, there's Dante's Inferno, I think, right on the inside of the Duomo. It's insane. That was all painted by one man. And it's a big-ass dome.
Yeah, the Sistine
Big-ass
Chapel,
dome.
too. It's like what Robin Williams said in, what's that movie?
Patch Adams?
Definitely not Pat. Good Will Hunting. Good Will Hunting. When he's like,
Flubber?
When he's talking to Matt Damon, and he's like, Matt Damon thinks he knows everything, and he's like, you're never gonna know what it's like to look up at the Sistine Chapel unless
Good
you
Will
do
Hunting.
Yeah. Good Will Hunting.
People don't get that. Like a picture like this will never do it justice. Yeah, that was
It seemed like he might go on like a nice sentimental monologue.
He
in that.
could, but that wouldn't have been
Okay.
the first.
I mean, you didn't even know my name to start the show, so
Piper Jenks. I knew the middle and the last name.
it's really fun.
Yeah. You mentioned you live near Santa Croce. Is that where they play Calcio Storico once a year?
Calcio Storico. Yep. They've been playing it since the 16th century. It's really the origins of soccer itself, but let me set the stage for you. There's 4 teams. They represent the 4 regions of Florence.
Like the 4 neighborhoods.
4 neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
4 colors. The way it works is they take Piazza Santa Croce, which is where Galileo, Dante, so many famous incredible, world-changing people are buried. And they covered the whole piazza, which is a big square, in sand. And then they put bleachers around it. And the 4 regions each have 27 players. The way the game works is they put a ball in the middle of the sand pit. It's 27 on 27. If you can get your ball to the other side, there's a big net across the wall, not like all the way up and down. It's kind of like a slot. If you get the ball in, it's a point. If you like overthrow it, I think you can lose a point. Very simple point system. But here's the curveball. Every type of fighting is allowed.
Love it.
So it's a full-blown, no equipment, 27 on 27 fist fight. It used to mostly consist of ex-convicts, but they've tried to kind of move away from that.
Yep.
And the real honor of it is not just winning, but more importantly, doing it with honor and managing to stay on the field. For example, one summer I saw a guy break his ankle like 5 minutes into the match, but he was one of their best fighters. So your frontline guys are legitimately like your best fist fighters, and they just fight like it's a chessboard while you're thinking about how to get the ball moving forward. This dude fought on one leg. It was crazy, and he knocked people out.
Wow.
And then you'll see somebody like running with the ball and just if you can do a YouTube of Calcio Storico.
So I actually have a YouTube video on it. You can search Donnie Does Calcio Storico because we'll be able to throw that.
I used to go there every
vlog.
summer. It was so awesome.
Yeah, when I knew I'd be living in Italy for a year, I was like, this is pretty much #1 on my bucket list. But then I learned that you can only buy tickets in person, and they go on sale a couple weeks before the match, and they sell out on that first day.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, when the teams are coming to meet there, and there you go, that's exactly what I described. They march from their region, and it's a small, relative region within Florence, to Santa Croce with all of their people chanting and supporting. And like they're literally warriors going to fight. It is electric because it's multiple days. So I would go one day, another day I'd be in my apartment, but they'd march right down my street.
Yeah.
And like, oh my God, it was crazy to see.
Yeah, it's like going back in time, seeing this crazy medieval parade where they all march in. And the really cool thing about it is you're going to war with people you've known your whole life.
Yes.
Because it's just like the people you grew up with.
That's so sick.
So it's like all your best neighborhood brawlers. Like you're sending them out there to bring the glory back to your section of the city.
So another thing you'll see a lot of times in a Calcio Storico match is if one guy's really fucked up on one team and another guy's really fucked up on another team, they'll kind of find each other and they'll just lay on top of each other. And that's kind of like just a show of respect of like, neither of us want to get off the field, but we'll call it a draw that we're both fucked.
Yeah.
And they're just like, these guys are lunatics.
It does look like a prison yard.
So once the ball is thrown into play, most people just square up with someone across from them. And then get into a fist fight for the next hour.
They have different roles. They have different roles, but the big fist fighters are up front and they're looking for it.
Well, that's good. Form tackle.
Yep.
I would love to see this happen at the Pentagon, but add another one so it's just the different branches of service.
Oh,
Get 27 people from each branch of service, have them march in and do a fist fight.
Yeah.
That would be incredible.
Yeah, but we have like the fire department versus police department hockey game.
Yeah.
But that doesn't quite live up to this.
The violence here is insane. My favorite story, I don't know if you've ever heard this one, is back in the day, so you never know how real it is, but back in the day, there was once a rivalry that got so heated in Calcio Storico that when they started the match, nobody touched the ball. Nobody even looked at the ball. They just started beating the shit out of each other. And it went on for 5 minutes. It went on for 10 minutes. It went on for 15 minutes. The Polizia got on their little thing and they said, if you don't start playing, we're going to intervene. Like, you have to play the match. They just kept fighting another 5 minutes. The police line up. They walk out onto the field. All the players stop fighting. They stood side by side. Come on out.
And then we're
cops
trying to fight the
cops literally backed out of the thing. Somebody grabbed the ball and the match started. And everyone, it's like known as the greatest match that was ever played.
That's sick.
Yeah. So they do have a couple rules now. I think it's just that, no convicted criminals can play anymore.
What?
Because it used to just be a lot of convicts.
That's bullshit. What? I mean, what are they supposed to do? Now you can't play a game?
Listen,
about a
it's for the
pardon,
think
something?
People were dying. out
No,
there.
I think it
that's
went
for the
into
love of the
like criminal ties and like gangs and like people
Yeah.
trying to kill each other out there kind of shit.
Active criminal ties. What are we?
That's what I think he's more referring to.
Yeah, like active criminal ties.
People that get out but are clearly still.
Yeah,
I feel like they should go old school where they just bring in nothing but people in jail, and if you win, you get out.
that's the only way I would see this happening in the U.S. So if we just had like 2 prisons compete.
I didn't want to say it out loud, but that's the much better idea.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would like that too.
And then I
That'd be
think
incredible.
this might be a fairly new rule, but I don't think you can kick people in the head anymore.
There's an incredible clip on YouTube of a guy running with the ball who like takes a step out of his way just to kick a guy in the face as it's like one of the great plays ever. He just fucking wails him.
Yeah, so I was at this event all alone. Well, first, how I was able to get a ticket to this event, there was a random stoolie that happened to be in Florence, and he saw that I would like wanted to go, but I wasn't able to get to Florence to buy a ticket. He managed to buy a ticket for me,
On game time?
not on game time. But he got it like 2 weeks before the
Shut up,
match,
Untitled.
and then he gave it to someone he knew that was going to be in Florence when I was there. So then when I arrived, I was able to pick up a ticket, which was huge. So shout out
awesome.
that stoolie.
The Stoolie Network has done you wonders.
Yes, I would like stoolies have come through in the clutch for me a lot. I don't think I've had any like horrible experiences with them. It's all been pretty much positive. And this event, it lived up to the hype. I had a crappy camera I was filming with, so I don't have the best footage of it, but I think it was like the most insane sporting event I've seen. And I've seen Buzkashi, which is headless goat polo.
That's
and
in Mongolia?
that was in Tajikistan. They played in Afghanistan, like all those Central Asian countries. But this, I think, was maybe crazier. And once the match ended after an hour and a half, we all stormed the field. So I got to like talk to the players after they've been playing for an hour and a half. 90% of them were severely concussed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's good.
severely concussed.
That's a good sport.
The only downside I'd say is I arrived in the morning and I was like, all right, Calcio Storico, I got to get lubed up for this. So I hit up a bar, got bombed, and then I get into the event. They close it down completely. There's no more beers sold, and I'm just directly in the sun.
Oh, yeah,
So
it
like
gets hot.
after an hour and a half, just hung over in the sun, like I was dying. I don't even think they sold
So
water in there.
Florence in the summer, like is that go in the fall, go in the spring. In the summer, even go in the winter, it's beautiful. Like with all the lights, they make it gorgeous. It's an oven because the whole thing is just stone. So what happens is it gets really hot, but you don't even realize like you're basically sitting in this furnace that as the sun sets, it somehow like keeps getting hotter and muggier, and they think Italians genuinely think air conditioning is the boogeyman.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have like a torn ACL, they'll be like, "Do you have air conditioning?" Like, like I'm not even kidding. They think like
Yes.
it causes injuries. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So I feel for you. That happened to me one time at Calcio Storico too.
Yeah. And then I also, the second time I went to Florence was over the 4th of July, and it was like 101
Yeah,
degrees
no,
out.
you're going at the wrong times.
And yeah, like none of the shops have air conditioning, so you're walking down the street, you're dying.
Sweating.
And I'm used to in New York when you're dying on the streets, you just walk into like an H&M or a Uniqlo,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're like, AC. You walk into an H&M there's still no AC, and you're just dying.
Might get like a mister on the way in.
Yeah. I was able to find an Airbnb that did have AC, but those are rare. I had a friend there. He was staying at like the super fancy Airbnb, but no AC. So he was just like miserable. He just closed all the doors in his apartment and would kind of just like hide out in the dark to cool down.
That sounds miserable.
Yeah, it was. Especially he was paying so much to stay in this super fancy, beautiful house, but just was miserable.
Damn.
I think what I did is I found an Irish pub that was like dark, and I was just drinking cold ciders in a corner.
It's probably Lion's Fountain or Uncle Jimmy's.
I think it was.
Yeah, definitely. They have a lot of good ciders.
Yeah.
The other one too are the Fiorentina matches, which is great. They're in Serie A, but they're a very mid-level team. But it's really classic Italian soccer because the fans are so passionate. And my favorite was there's one year, if we looked it up, we could probably find it, but somewhere between 2012 and 2016 when Tottenham came. I think it was probably just a friendly, just an exhibition. But the Tottenham fans, came into town, and you know, a few hundred, whatever, but it was enough to make a fucking ruckus in Florence when you got a few hundred crazy Englishmen.
Yep.
It was one of my favorite things I've ever seen in terms of like mass collaboration and everyone playing it so cool, and they've clearly run this game before, but they banned beer from the game, saying that like this is too rowdy, you know, with all you guys, but they keep all of the English fans in one section. So everyone in that section, no alcohol is being sold. The whole rest of the stadium, we could drink as much as we want. They just pour it in Coke cups. Like the actual like you know, cardboard type ones, so like you can't see the liquid.
Yeah.
So everyone just thought we were drinking Diet Cokes, but they're like, of course we're gonna let like our Italians drink.
But if those,
But like
these
these British
that,
can't handle it.
if the Brits found out you were pulling that trick on them, there would have been a riot.
But Fiorentina was awesome, and that's another one. When you go out and visit these places, that's like a great way to experience the local culture.
Yeah.
And one of the other great things at Accademia Europea di Firenze was we were it wasn't just a study abroad school, it was really a arts school. And we did so many different types of concerts and fashion events and dance events. It was so special for me because I would be constantly put in these incredible cathedrals, not just in Florence, but across Tuscany, across all of Italy, and watch these really talented students perform. And I think it's just another good example, like all that whole life experience I got of working with people from different countries, working in a different language, constantly being like the weird one, being the one that's out of place, opposed to being the one that's like, you know, in control. I got so much strength from that. And it was really hard too. I think that's the other part of the story I probably don't say enough. The amount of nights I walked home in those first 6 months, and I was like, you can't bitch to anybody because like you're in Italy, so everyone's like, oh, that's the coolest thing ever. But it's really fucking lonely when you don't know anybody, you don't speak the language, and you're an idiot, like you can't figure it out. When you're in those spots sometimes in life, like you know in your gut, this sucks, but if I can get through this, the other side's going to be so fucking awesome. And it's really hard.
Yeah.
But if you do it, like, and you know whatever you're doing in your life, you know what that thing is. If you do it, it's just so worth it.
That was me in Clemson working at the Kung Fu Cantina.
That's also the theme of Patch Adams.
Is it?
It's the Patch Adams episode. It's the Patch Adams episode.
You were talking about performances. Did you go to any opera performances?
Endless, and we put them on.
Okay. Florence is the only place I've been to the opera.
I think the opera gets poo-pooed too much.
No, the opera sucks.
What? How do you feel about symphonies?
I haven't been to enough, but I mean, I think that's the one and only opera I've been to. Incredibly talented performers. It was beautiful, but I mean, some things you grow into appreciating later in life. Like when I was younger, I didn't love history. If like you brought me to a history museum, I might be bored. Now I love history, would love going to a history museum. Opera is one of those things that you always talk about as like, oh, it sounds so boring as a kid. As an adult, it was equally as boring.
Well, to also add to that, if you're deep in Tuscany and you go to certain opera shows, you're going to be in elite physical discomfort. Like you're going to be sitting on a bench that's 400 years old, and it's going to be hot as ball. Like when we had concerts in the summer, some of those opera shows, I look like Patrick Ewing 2 minutes into the fucking thing.
Yeah.
And I just be like, kill me now, Lord. Kill me now.
Yeah,
a lot of religious
hot.
experiences in there.
But I mean, just in terms of like, even in China, they have Chinese opera, and I never went to a performance, but listening to it, I was like, this sucks.
Yeah, I would imagine.
But it is, I will say, like
that language doesn't seem like it lends itself to opera.
I mean, seeing them perform, it was crazy to see the different like notes that humans can reach.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was wildly impressive, but it's just not something I enjoy listening to.
Okay.
I mean, have you ever been to a live opera show?
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Okay.
Now, what I fell in love with was jazz. And I had a colleague named Antonio Vanni who lived for jazz. And I've always loved basketball. And to me, I made this correlation in my brain of the rhythm in basketball when a team's like perfectly operating, but it's not all set plays. They're just, everyone's working in conjunction together perfectly and they can feel the rhythm. It's very similar to when you're jamming in jazz. and you don't have like a song per se that you're playing. You're just playing off of each other. And I didn't really understand that that's how it worked in jazz until I met Antonio, and we'd put on a concert once a week on Borgo Pinti, right by La Giostra. And it was so beautiful, man. And just drinking Negronis and just listening to music. And that was Monday night.
Negronis and jazz would make me want to kill myself.
What? I'm actually on board with that.
Crazy statement.
Opera made me want to kill myself. Negroni's
Well,
jazz
you
sounds
wouldn't
awesome.
if someone was ripping a crazy good solo on like a saxophone.
Yeah.
And you're in a really comfortable, beautiful bar with a nice heavy glass and a really classy Italian, like
Girl
with
stroking your cock.
great energy.
Now we're cooking.
Are you not feeling that? You don't like that vibe?
I mean, I like most live music. So if I was there, I would probably like it. Throwing jazz on, no thank you. I feel like for me, it's just a little
Yeah, we're not
too
talking elevator music. We're
chaotic.
talking about people like
Yeah.
jamming.
Yeah, I don't mind it live if it's somebody really good. But overall, I would put jazz near the bottom. I'd rather go to an opera show than.
Damn.
I mean, if you have a really good guitarist, a really good saxophonist, sure, I understand the artistry of it. Not my cup of tea.
We can all agree that the blues are awesome, though, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I think I feel like you haven't experienced really good jazz.
You take me
Yeah.
to a good jazz
You
spot.
probably only
That's
experienced
you know
like
what I mean?
Jacksonville, Florida jazz.
You motherfucker.
But it's just like you've probably never experienced good opera.
You know what? I think it was
you went in
good
Beijing.
opera. I think you hit the nail on the head. It was extremely hot.
Yeah, that's what.
And I was also sitting in the front row,
row.
so I was like, fucking, like everyone's just like making eye contact with me, and I was
That's
like,
the
oh
wor-
god damn,
That's
I can't
a
like
rookie
look
mistake.
away.
You don't sit in the front row in
Yeah.
an opera show.
It was
These
tough.
things are like 5 hours long.
Yeah, yeah. I also just don't. I can't like sit still for long periods of time, so it was tough.
So the other, a couple other big things I used to love in Florence, and for people that go out there, it's an incredible city for bicycles. I went through 5 bicycles because they get stolen very easily. Each time it was like losing a girlfriend because I was like a centaur. I was like part of my body.
Okay.
And what I used to do on the weekends, I had a Nokia 2. I did have an iPhone, but it didn't have service. So I had basically a brick phone with no texting. You could just call me if you needed me.
Also play Snake, though.
Also play, literally, yes, I could play Snake. I would take the bicycle, and my whole thing was I would try to get lost. So I'd literally go down the Arno like as far as I could, then cross the river, and then eventually start generally trying to make my way back and stop somewhere and have a steak. And that's what I would do on the weekends. And I just think of that now compared to like, you know, I work for crazy Frank Fleming and I'm on my phone posting shit all the time.
Yeah.
It was such a good part of my life. I think it's just, I hope people still do that. And trying to do it earlier in your life when you have more flexibility is definitely going to make more sense and be more possible, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't think enough young people understand that you don't have to go right for the career title thing when you're 22. You don't have to feel the stress of everybody else in society. Like, you can go a different way and learn shit a different way and experience a lot more in life.
Yeah. And I've had some people have the debate like, well, they're like, I want to start a family and have kids right after college. So then when I'm older and actually have some money, I'll be free to travel. But the thing is, there's certain travel experiences that you won't really be able to do when you're older, or that you wouldn't want to do when you're older. But when you're young and you're traveling on a budget, I mean, you don't mind if you got to like sleep on a couch a few nights, or if you're staying at a crappy hostel. Like, you're just enjoying every minute of it. Just
I
throwing
would say,
yourself into these wild
And
experiences.
I'm 36. I haven't honestly been on vacation in over 5 years, like pre-COVID. I think Frank might let me go to Italy in April.
Why don't you guys do it together? Frank does Florence would be incredible.
Why don't I go on vacation with Frank?
That's fair.
Although I
That's
do,
fair.
I think the Miami Dolphins are playing in Spain in the fall.
It's just such a crazy thing to say.
I apologize.
Well, what you
I
should
think that's
do
the end of
is,
the episode.
I don't know if I'm wrong. I think Miami Dolphins are playing in Spain this coming fall.
You know, you guys don't. So
You
let's
could-
just, let's
you-
just go beep beep beep. If I'm gonna travel and enjoy Europe, I'm not going with Frank, and I'm not going to a Dolphins game. So you could tell Frank about that. Irrelevant to me. I would never go to an NFL game in Europe. Never in a million years.
No, you just not with Frank.
Not at all. I wouldn't go to an NFL game by choice ever again. Period.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Why?
I've worked for Frank for over 2 years. I have not had a day off. I don't like going to sporting events.
I think he might allow you to go to Italy if he's like, if you bring me to Spain, then I'll let you have a week alone over in Italy.
No,
Okay.
not how that works.
A man of principle. I like that.
Okay.
The first time I asked him, he said, yeah, but let's just wait until the Winter Olympics in February of 2026.
Okay.
That was literally dead serious, too.
Does he want to go to that?
I don't know, but I said, I put my hand on his chest and said, listen, buddy, when I go on vacation, you're not coming.
He's like, well, good. You're not going on vacation.
It's like, nailed it. That's basically what happened, and we haven't really.
Nice try,
We
Jenks.
talked about it again last night. We tried. I got him all the way to like a maybe. Goldfinger hurt. I think I'm in good shape.
I think a way to turn your vacation into content is you choose another employee to take your job while you're gone.
Goldfinger. We've already did. Yeah.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is the setup.
But we might need Goldfinger's
Donnie,
help.
please do not trade me.
Yeah, and just be like, so like someone else here can experience what it's like to
Let's
work
also
for
just
Frank
be
for a
clear.
week.
When I say vacation, I'm literally talking about. I'd probably go like Wednesday to Sunday.
Oh, you got to take a full week.
I don't know
You
how.
deserve it.
I don't even know how to, man. You should see the look on his face when I asked for Wednesday to Sunday. It's like I'm telling him I banged his wife. He's like heartbroken. And this is the thing. Frank is not worried about doing the work or like anything like that. I think he's genuinely jealous that I might go have a good time without him, like a crazy girlfriend. That's the vibe I'm getting.
You know what? I will volunteer. If you want to take a 1 week vacation, I will work. I will be Frank's guy for a week. And I'll film some content out of it
you're a
too.
good man.
But I will make sure that, I mean, I
good
can
man.
promise you he will at least go on his walk every day. Yeah, and like I know how to video edit, so I could like help with that.
How are you with taking late night phone calls with a lot of screaming? With
We
things
can,
that
I'll
are
practice with you.
things that are
Yeah,
totally.
but maybe
I'll call
Chaps,
you
maybe
occasionally at,
Chaps
like,
could take on
1:30.
the job with me, so like we can like work in shifts. Like you take Frank's like nighttime shifts.
Because you have to understand,
Okay.
we're about to hit the overlap where we have Devils and Mets going on simultaneously. So
Oh.
every single night, there's a high chance of stress.
Well, why don't we wait until the Olympics in 2026?
There you go.
and then we'll do it.
He gets it.
Yeah,
Frank, he gets it. He gets it.
it's funny. I won't invite you to like buy property abroad, but I will
Yeah.
invite you if it's like
Any great
taking
trips,
care
you're
of
like,
Frank.
I don't know, but
I will invite you to help me take care of Frank for a week.
thank you.
No, when I go, I actually might. I'm not going to name names, but I might be bringing a Barstool person and having them shoot like a short film in Florence. So I have some just really good footage of my favorite spots, and he can integrate a script or whatever, which would be really special, be really fun. But I honestly think it would just be like 5 days. It wouldn't be anything too crazy.
Now, before coming to Barstool, had you made content on your own in the past? Because I know you come from a content family. Your older brother is a documentary filmmaker. Used to have a show on MTV called World of Jenks. He's done some extremely cool projects that are similar to some things I've done, but just on a much larger scale. Like one of his first documentaries was The Zen of Bobby V, where he filmed a documentary about Bobby Valentine managing a baseball team in Japan. I'm not exactly sure where in Japan, that he was then able to sell to ESPN. Very cool stuff.
And then Bobby V was on Frank Walks.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
shit.
Yeah.
Let's go.
My brother set that one up.
Nice.
Now, growing up and seeing your brother make these films, did that ever inspire you to be like, oh, I really want to get in the content game at some point?
Honest to God, not really. My brother, from day one when we were out in Belgium, he used to use the camcorder. It would be like, it was CNN International, like, and pretend he was making movies. He'd make me act, and like we'd do like action films and shit. So he always wanted to do that since we were kids.
Yeah.
He went to school for one semester, dropped out, and then moved into a nursing home when he was 19 and created his first documentary called Andrew Jenks, Room 335, which is still one of my favorite movies ever. And HBO bought it, where he just lives in a assisted living facility for like 2 months.
Yeah.
And really gets to know the residents. Some of them die.
It's like a Mr. Beast video.
Really gets attached to some of them.
It sounds a little cooler, though.
But he really humanizes them because you
Yeah.
don't think about people that like live in assisted
Yeah.
living. You just visit and you leave, but it's like they're there they're there, they're living, they're still alive.
Yeah.
Right.
And some of them were just so funny and like so full of life. So yeah, my brother is always a huge inspiration, and he's done incredible projects. Also, like Dream Killer, Ryan Ferguson, who was wrongfully convicted, and I think his career is just getting started. You know, he's still a young man in his game, so I'm hoping one day he'll be, you know, getting the Oscar and all that great stuff.
So he must have at least inspired you to take chances, because like dropping out of school to make a documentary in a nursing home and then being able to sell that first documentary to HBO, like obviously it doesn't always pan out like that, but at least like looking at him, are you like, you know what, I got a very steady sales job right now, but like it's not what I want to be doing for the rest of my life. I want to take a chance, see if I can get a job at Barstool.
I am so lucky. I've got the most supportive big brother you could ever imagine, where, and family and best friends. And like, that's a small circle of people that really, really, really know me. But there's a couple of them, like Ryan De Silva, like he'd kill any of you in a second. Like if I asked him to, he'd come here and kill you.
Well,
like I've got like I know he'd have to sneak up on you. I'm just saying he'd figure out a way.
I don't know if I like this Ryan.
Sorry, and that's coming from a place of love. You know what I'm saying? So my brother always made me feel like. Sorry, I don't know why I got so violent there. That's when I was going to get passionate.
I got to meet this Ryan
but
guy.
He's literally Joe Pesci in real life.
Get him to play that one game.
He's Joe Pesci in real life.
Okay.
He always made me feel like there's nothing to be afraid of. And it just doesn't matter what other people are saying. It just doesn't matter. Like nobody gives a shit. And the older you get, the more it becomes abundantly clear to you that most of the time when people are saying negative things about you or to you, they are completely projecting their own insecurities. And you're probably hitting a button with them because you have the audacity to do something that they just don't. And that, I saw that a lot. Like, you know, from when I moved to Italy to when I joined a tech startup purely because I thought the founder was a total badass. And I was like, I'm going to get to work directly with this guy. And he's gone on to become one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world. To joining Barstool and the way I did it and the way, you know, I worked in sales for 15 years. I saved up all this money. Not that I have like a ton of it, but enough where I could buy expensive Knicks tickets. And then, you know, people online are like, who's this trust fund baby? Da, da, da. It's like, that ain't the situation, guys.
Yeah, honestly,
I
when
worked
you first started,
my ass off, and this is my fucking money, and I have no guarantee, no strings attached, but I'm taking a swing.
Yeah.
It's the point of savings. If I'm not, I'm going to take a swing here.
Yeah.
And the worst case scenario is I went to some Knicks games with some of the people I'm a huge fucking fan of. And like, they're, you know, I ain't going to have any, like I said, I don't go on vacation. Like I don't spend money on material shit. I spend money on experiences.
Yeah. I was definitely one of those people when you first started working with Frank that looked at it and be like, I hope this guy's not taking advantage of Frank. Like
a lot of people.
Because you see, like, you bring in Che, you bring in some other Barstool people that have like a following and be like, is he trying to use it as an in and using Frank? At this point, though, I admire you. Like, I think that what you've done for Frank's life is really incredible.
Thank you.
And he might not be alive, like Donnie said, legitimately, without that help and taking those late night phone calls. You don't do that shit for 2 years straight without having a good heart. So a lot of that, I think, compassion comes from traveling in world experiences, and I'm sure living in several country and having people be compassionate with you, that rubs off after a while.
I never thought of it that way, but yeah, I appreciate it. And I think the biggest thing with Frank, that like I just encourage people to always think about when somebody seems really strange or frustrating or irrational, is to ask questions rather than be nasty or just fucking ignore them, you know? But it's fascinating when you actually ask somebody, how are you? What's actually going on? And they start telling you crazy stuff, you know, stats about the Mets. But then on walk 150, they finally look at you and they tell you, you know, when I was a kid, this actually happened. And this reminds me of that. And I've actually never told anybody that. And like, you find out shit where all of a sudden you feel almost guilty. You're like, this guy has been completely misunderstood from the jump. And people judge him and people chastise him and people think he's a snob or entitled or this or that. And they've not, and a lot of people that have worked with him for years, they've never taken the time to speak with the man or ask him, why do you behave the way you do? Why do you have the outbursts that you have? Not that it's okay, not that it's justified, not that everybody should have to deal with it all the time. It's not black and white like that. But that's my whole point, is that everything's in the gray. And if you just ask some fucking questions, it's incredible what you can do for people. And I think you're right, chaps. That's where when you open up, like I said earlier, and get out of your fucking bubble, you're more inclined to do that, I think, rather than just be like, all right, I got my judgment on this person, fuck them. You miss out on a lot in life when you operate that way.
Yeah, and I imagine, like, I don't know what your plans are in the future, but dealing with Frank all the time and being around him, you'd be an unbelievable dad. Like, at this point.
Yes.
Like,
I'm single.
Okay.
I mean, if you could deal with all that for 2 years in a row, you could deal with somebody not eating a fish stick.
One of my proud moments, we did a thing with Netflix, and one of the people took me aside and they congratulated me. And I think
You and Frank did something with Netflix, or?
Yeah, it was like the Joey Chestnut, the Kobayashi thing. We did a couple things, but one of them took me aside and they said, in a very loving way, they said, because they saw me with Frank, let's just put it that way, over the couple days.
Yeah.
When we're on the road, a lot of things happen. Just put it that way.
Yeah.
They said, from what I've seen online and now what I've seen in person, you could produce anyone.
Okay.
And I was like a real Netflix person. I was very proud of that. And yeah, chaps, I'm actually listening to a book of Lone Survivor, and he's in SEAL training right now. And I was laughing with Mikey Betts. The best way to describe Frank, like in terms of how tough you have to be, the SEALs in what's it called, the last part of training?
Oh, like Hell Week?
Buds, yeah. It's called like Buds or Studs.
Oh, yeah, Buds is like the overall, like, last.
So I think it was in that part. So these guys have a 4 a.m. call time to start some strenuous physical thing, right? 2 a.m., their instructor jumps through the fucking window like a ninja out of nowhere when they're all asleep, starts trashing the place. By the time the first guy can get up, he's out the fucking window, comes right around front, looks totally in uniform perfect, knocks on the door for inspection after just trashing the place himself. And then, screams at everybody, punishes everybody, and they have to be up in 2 hours. And the guy says he talked to the instructor, months later. He's like, the whole point of that exercise is to see whether or not you're mentally strong enough to deal with completely irrational stress. And when I listened to that, I was like, that's the core of what I do.
Yeah, I mean, it is thinking through chaos, like having things slow down, that you don't look at the overall task, you look at each different task. Like, I'm sure, like, you have, like the what are you going to do in 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 years? You basically have to look at that with Frank. Like, how can I get through the next 5 minutes? Help Frank get through the next 5 minutes, and then we'll work on the 5 hours.
It's one day at a time.
Yeah.
It's absolutely one day at a time. And it's 7 days a week. That's the other thing that I can just honestly say. There's no actual days off because, he calls me every day.
Yeah. It's weird, like,
At
you
least
talk
once.
about Frank like he's your boss, and in some ways he is, but technically Dave Portnoy would be your boss. Like, I don't think Frank could just be like, you're fired. Although I guess Frank could call up Dave and be like, I'm done with Jenks. And then Dave, I guess.
They would probably give it a week.
Dave would probably have to listen to Frank. Like, all right, I guess Jenks is done.
If Frank has firing authority, that'd be pretty fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
But I don't think he does. And if he does, I'm not concerned about that.
So that's why,
there's a
at the end
better
of the day,
chance
if you
he'd
need to
fire
take a
himself.
vacation, I would just take a vacation. Like, Frank might have
Yeah, so yeah, that's the other thing, Don. Like, to be clear, I'm an adult. And if I it's just important. It's just important. Like, the world's tiniest violin. Just to be clear, I have done a really bad job. This will be a little therapy session here, but I've done a very bad job of cultivating a social life in my 30s as my friends have started families and that sort of thing. I don't really like to go out and drink. So, like, I think a lot of people kind of think of me as a hermit because I don't like going out to, like, bars and getting hammered and shit. So what it does is it gets you to that mind, at least the place in your mind of, like, you just lock in and all your whole world is work. And that's something that is more of a me thing. So also, to be fair to Frank, he gives insane responses that enables me to torture myself. But if I ever said, fuck off, I'm taking a week off, well, what's he going to do? Dump me? Like, you know, like he's going to break up with me? No.
Yeah.
I mean, worst case scenario, he throws a fit, but I'll be in the plane.
Yeah.
So, like, that's totally on me.
Okay.
You know, long story short. Because Dave would Frank, first of all, wouldn't actually do anything.
Yeah. Right.
But if he did, Dave would be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you, fucking crazy? This guy, like, he probably could sue us at this point. You need to check yourself,
That
man.
would be if you like quit Barstool and write like a tell-all book. Like,
Oh yeah. So last thing about Florence, if somebody wants to take a trip, because summer season is coming up, you said it was a little bit hot.
Yeah.
What's something off the beaten path that somebody should do that only locals know about?
Yeah, so I don't think it's that only locals know about, but I think when you're in the city center, what you want to do is go across the river from the Duomo on the other side of the Arno to an area called Santo Spirito. There's the actual Santo Spirito Piazza, but that area of Santo Spirito is locals.
Okay.
So even in tourist season, that's where the locals are all congregating. And that's where you can sit down, you can drink outside, you can, like, it's much more open and free. Like, you can bring your wine out. Another thing is if you go to Piazza Signoria one night, you can just bring a bottle of wine that costs €5 and sit there and drink in public. It's perfectly legal.
And I'm sure it's delicious.
Unbelievable wine, no preservatives. Like, you basically don't have a hangover unless you drink yourself into a coma. Fiesole is the other one I always really try to hammer home. If you're in Florence, you have to go to Fiesole. And for the love of God, just don't show up at the most busy tourist spots in the middle of the day and not expect a line and not expect a bunch of Americans and then complain about Florence. Really give it a shot. And another thing about Italians that I think is important, and I'm very biased because I love them, is if you show interest and love toward their culture, they are going to reciprocate 1,000,000x. So even if you went there completely by yourself, and this is another one, when they stopped speaking English to me, on my way home from work, there was a man named Salvatore, who somebody on Instagram, because I posted about him the other day, Vittoria, shout out to Vittoria, said that he's actually back in Florence and he remembers me, obviously. He'd let me eat at his restaurant for free as long as I only spoke Italian to him and he spoke English to me because he wanted to work on his English.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I would eat the most fucking I tweeted it the other day. It's probably just a little bit down the timeline. But I'd eat the best stuff. But the example there is I just walked in one night and explained who I was to that man, and he took me in and kind of showed me the ropes. And it was in his restaurant the first time I had a real dialogue in Italian.
Nice.
And I walked home that night, and it was.
And you feel a little accomplished, right? Like when you do that. Like the first time I would go into a Japanese place, and that
a
was
little, dude.
Yeah.
How long did it take you?
fucking 2.5 years.
So I mean, to me, it's like it's an emotional, it's a crazy mental thing. It's almost like doing like a psychedelic, like because what happens is you think in another language first, which happens subconsciously. That's how you're able to speak in another language. But you have to be able to process information and have it be coming out of your brain in that language. You can't think in English, translate, and talk. That's not how it works. It takes a long time for that to happen.
And you're essentially asking your brain to double your vocabulary.
Yes.
Like, and that's I don't know, like Pete Buttigieg, for example, knows 5 languages fluently.
Yeah, those guys are gifted.
That's insane.
The key thing for me was also watching
He's a psyop, though.
The Office.
Is he?
No.
I would watch
I've heard people say that.
if you watch a show that you know intimately, both storyline and especially any kind of dialogue in another language, and then if you have subtitles on, even better.
Oh, yeah.
That's how you learn context within language. So you're not just learning the fundamental vocabulary, which is obviously helpful in verbiage and all that, but the little one-liners and sayings, that made a huge difference. Then it started connecting all the dots.
There's so many people that say they learn languages from watching the same soap opera.
Yeah.
Yes. Baywatch was how this one guy.
I think The
learned
Office
English.
helped as much as almost anything.
What's that?
Watching The Office in Italian like regularly
yeah.
helped as much as anything.
Yeah, I bet. Because it's conversational, too.
And I would know just like the context was so, it would make such a difference.
I have 2 recommendations for Florence.
Okay.
One is a very touristy spot, but I think it's still worth checking out. Like Florence sandwiches are very famous. And I think their famous spot is like Al Antico Fornaio. You know that spot?
I used to walk by it every day.
Yeah. And they just, I don't know, there's something, they use this great bread fresh ingredients.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little secret.
They actually opened a chain of it in New York City. So if you want to try a Florence sandwich, you can try it in Manhattan too.
Really funny that you bring that one up, Donnie, because the place is absolutely fantastic. There's about 20 of them in the city. That's the famous one.
Okay. Yeah, that's when you'll have
So
a
all you
long
need
line
to
of
do
tourists.
is if you see that type of bread and all the fresh meats and pastes laid out,
Is that flank steak?
you're golden.
They might make one sandwich with flank steak, but they make,
Probably not.
they have a list of like
not steak. in there.
15 different sandwiches that you can get. They're all on the same bread.
It's so fresh.
Like if you
It's so
click that
good.
photo, it's called sketchita. I don't know how to pronounce that. Yeah. So whatever, this type of bread's incredible. I think those are some pickled onions, like a pistachio spread, fresh mozzarella.
That was great.
And honestly, the one I got in New York was almost just as good.
I bet the pine nuts in that make a nice little crunch. Change up the texture.
Oh yeah. And then my second recommendation is the other really cool festival I got to witness while I was in Italy, and it's about an hour and a half train from Florence, but it's the Palio di Siena. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes.
Yeah, one of the like most historic horse races in the world. And the horse race happens in the town square
It's
as well.
insane.
Wow.
It's literally
Yeah,
insane.
you see that? So that's the
Wow.
course. It's a circle.
Damn, that's really cool.
And you can pay like 300 to 400 euros to get a seat in one of the buildings surrounding the square. And then you can just like chill in the shade, sipping your Negronis, but it's free to go in the middle. But it is not for the faint of heart. There are no toilets in that middle area where you just see a massive crowd of people, and you need to show up like 6 hours before the race because
Yeah.
then they close it off. So I didn't want to splurge for the seats up above, and I think they were sold out at the time. So I just like showed up very early, got in the middle, and you're not even supposed to bring in beverages or food, but I think I was able to sneak in a few.
How do you see?
How do you see? I mean, thankfully I was taller than a lot of the people there. If you're right in the middle, you're not really seeing shit.
Yeah.
I was kind of close to the side, and then you just wait. So you arrive and you just wait for 6 hours in the blazing sun. I saw someone faint and have to get taken out on a stretcher. I don't understand.
I've seen that happen
There's
many
not like a
times.
single outhouse, I think, in the
Yeah,
middle.
no,
So you
it's
kind of just need to
savage.
like hold your piss.
Yeah. They do, there's several events like that.
Yeah, it was so like the waiting was not pleasant. But then they do a crazy medieval parade again where they like first people come out dressed in this old fashioned garb with spears on horseback wearing crazy costumes. They march around. Then the horses come out. It usually takes them 3 or 4 starts to actually start because there'll be a false start or something like that. And similar to Calcio Storico, it's like each jockey represents a different section of the city. It's also one of the more dangerous horse races because
Yeah.
if you see in the top left, it's like a right angle. Like it's not like
Well,
a
look
curve.
at that horse in the middle.
That's not what we call
middle
regulation.
Far right.
Yeah, it's not like there's a couple of the turns are curved, but one of the turns is like a right angle.
Look
And
at the angle. Go make that one bigger. Bottom right, or middle, far right. There you go. Look at the angle of that horse.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and so
That's
like at
irresponsible.
one of the turns, sometimes
Yeah.
the horses will fall over, the jockeys will go flying. There's a great documentary about this. I forget like if it's on Netflix or whatever, but there's tons of bribery that goes into it too. Where when the jockeys are getting ready for the race to start, they're all trying to make deals with each other.
That's
being like,
awesome.
like, listen, I'll let you win if you pay me this much. And the different neighborhoods like raise money for bribes. And so there's like a ton of shady stuff that happens.
That's where they got NIL
And-
from.
Yeah, and like a lot of those deals are happening right before they fire off the gun to start the race. And then the race is only, I think, like 3 laps around.
It's crazy though.
I think it was worth it for me because I filmed and made a vlog about it. It like the 6 hours of waiting was pretty rough, and people start to get pissed off and
Yeah.
a little like at one point I accidentally got in front of like someone's view and they freaked out and started like cursing me out. Like people aren't happy after 6 hours
Oh, I bet.
of waiting. And then the race, it's like I had an all right view, but not the best view of the race. But it was it was very cool to experience just like how much history and tradition has gone into the event.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's my off the beaten track idea. And
Is there's one more thing if you don't mind
Yeah,
that
sure.
I wanted to share. It's super corny though. It's a little bit of a tearjerker. So I'll try to get through it without literally getting emotional.
okay.
But I sent Goldfinger a picture of two old Italian people. So I mentioned them before. It was Edie Furlano and Rodolfo. They were married. And Rodolfo didn't speak any English.
And these are the people that ran the
They ran the
university.
school.
Yeah.
And they loved the school. They lived for the school. It was their entire life. And like I said, it took me 18 months until I was really functional in Italian. And for Eddie, when I was finally speaking Italian, it was like her kid, you know. I was like her son. We were so close, and she knew I didn't know it. We were like family. So it was the second year going into Christmas. She starts coming into work a lot less. And by a lot less, she was like the big cat of the school. Like she's just in the building at all times kind of thing, like doing she's in every project you could imagine, just on call. And suddenly like she's not there for like a Tuesday and a Wednesday. Like, well, you know, and she kept blaming it on her shoulder. So I go home for Christmas and word gets to me that she died and she had cancer the whole time. And she just didn't want anybody to worry about her. That was her, you know, she was like the mother. She's like, no one's going to worry about me. So I was stuck in New York and I had to miss all the services, which kind of, it was weird. It was like, I don't know if you've ever had a situation where you lose somebody you love, but you don't get to grieve at all. Like you just kind of miss it. You're not there. So when I got back to Italy, obviously everyone was very loving and all that kind of stuff, but I had missed the whole thing. And there was it was really fucking me up. I'll put it that way. About 2 months go by and I hadn't seen Rodolfo. He'd kind of gone missing and everybody said he was a wreck. Eddie was his life. He loved that woman like nothing else in the world. Within 2 months, he was in the hospital. He was dying. And they didn't really have an explanation. And he had a broken heart.
Mm-hmm.
Just literally, he had a broken heart. And I went to visit him, and I was very emotional and worked up. And he told me, he's like, calm down. I'm going to see her. I know you didn't get to say bye to her, but this is why you learned Italian. Now you can tell me everything, and I'll let her know. And that was like, that kind of symbolizes to me my whole experience there. The kind of love that I got to experience in Florence is unlike anything I've ever felt in my life. And that's why I think I have an extremely high tolerance and threshold. And I really think life is so much better if we all try to find the interesting and the good in one another. And again, sorry, I'm emotional. Whenever I talk about those guys, I love those people so much. Life is just so much better. And everybody's walking around so fucking angry all the time. And we just have a conversation or mind your own business. But stop being assholes.
Yeah.
Very
It's a
well
good
said.
tagline for the show. Stop being assholes.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
But Eddie and Rodolfo, rest in peace, those two. And I'll never forget, imagine seeing a man in his deathbed who literally looks like a guy at a gate at an airport going to fly to see his wife at a beach. Like that was his, like I went in there upset.
Yeah.
And he looked at me cool as a fucking cucumber. Like, Matteo, tranquillo. Tranquilo. It was crazy.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that story.
Yeah, sorry, I got a little
No,
worked
it's
up
fine.
there.
No.
I'll probably get cooked
good.
online.
No.
Yeah, no. Hey, I thought this was a great episode. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's cool to hear about your life beyond just what you do with Frank.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate you guys. You guys, Donnie, you were really cool to me. I don't know if I was talking to Mikey about it. It's like before we were hired, there was a time we went to the old Chicago office, And neither of us were Barstool employees, but we were just with Frank.
Oh, yeah.
And we were just like sitting in like that little lobby area.
That was a
kinda.
very awkward little area.
And you sat with us and you were just super nice. And that's like exactly what I was just talking about. You're a good example. And chaps, I just don't know you as well, but I'm just, being honest because I've seen you in action.
Yeah.
I don't know you that well either. But I remember from that instance when I felt like, oh, this is kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Just a nice dude with an open mind. You're more curious. At least that's how you seemed.
Thank
rather
you,
than
man.
being like, fuck these guys.
Yeah.
Which also would have been reasonable.
Well, at that old office, we were all kind of in an awkward position because there was
I
like
didn't know
six
who
desks.
people
so
were.
like,
Anybody could have came in there and sat down and be like, oh, yeah, they work here too.
That was the kind of,
Yeah.
you just kind of had to like sit on that couch and maybe try to blog or something because no one actually had like a desk or.
And I think the show is fucking awesome. And I'm congratulations on doing it. And I hope it really grows. And I hope it inspires people to travel because life experience is more valuable than anything in the world. And the commodity is time and you don't get it back. So like, don't overthink it. Go see the world, go places you want to visit.
Yep. If you're scared about taking your vacation days at work, just take them.
Completely agree.
He's literally waiting right outside.
He's like, come on.
Well, yeah. Well, I wasn't even talking about you. I know like other people that just work normal jobs where
I'm a narcissist.
they're assigned like 2 weeks vacation days, but there's such a competitive atmosphere at work that like they end up not using them.
Yeah.
And I don't even know at some jobs, I don't know if they really roll over. So it's like, dude, if your work is allowing you to take 2 weeks vacation, you might as well use them.
It's probably an excuse, but I feel like it's a little awkward to go on vacation when you're single. It's like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I can
have
just
a
sit on
single
a
friend
lawn
dealing with that
chair
right
outside.
now. He's like, he doesn't, but at least you have the courage to solo travel because you've had those experiences in Florence where you didn't know a lot of people. I have like a friend who's single right now and he hasn't done a lot of solo travel in the past. And he's kind of like,
that's why I want to go back to Florence because it'll be like a homecoming. Like there will be some like epic, like I'll be walking into some restaurants like Stone Cold in his prime. Like the glass is going to shatter.
Sick.
Hell yeah.
Matteo Tornato! Like it'll be fucking crazy.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, maybe we'll have you back on for a Belgium episode at some point.
Yep, we'll do it.
Shout out Stroop Waffles.
Shout out the Stroops.
Today's episode of Drop a Pin is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Baseball is back, and there's nothing like heading to a baseball game, especially last minute. Luckily for me, I always use Game Time, the official ticketing partner of Barstool Sports. Game Time makes getting tickets easier and faster. Prices on the app actually go down the closer it gets to showtime. Plus, if you purchase a super deal when buying tickets on April 22nd, Game Time will plant a tree for free with the proceeds going to Earth Day. I was looking at tickets for a couple White Sox game. One of them is the Red Sox are coming into town. You can get tickets off of Game Time right behind the fence in left field. How much do you think?
$10? I don't know.
Less.
Oh my God.
Less.
$7.50.
They're on Game Time right now for $4. You can get 2 tickets, $4 each right behind the left field wall. Unbelievable deal.
Yeah. My friend invited me to that game and I said no, because now that I have a kid, I got to choose my nights out wisely.
Yeah.
So I went to Game Time and I bought tickets to the Red Sox Cubs game in July. I'm going to that one.
All right. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code DROP, D-R-O-P, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem DROP or DROP for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? Game time. Ugh. And you might, if you got $20 off, you could go for free, essentially.
There might be. Well, let's not make any
let's not say that.
promises.
But it's cheap. You don't
it's cheap.
need $20 back if you're getting both of your tickets for $8.
No.
You just don't.
Not at all. Drop a Pin is brought to you by DraftKings. The NBA 82 game grind is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for all the high-stakes drama, classic moments, and jaw-dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From the play-in games all the way through the finals, now's the time to back your favorite players and teams as they chase glory. All season long, DraftKings has been the go-to spot for NBA player props, and that doesn't stop now. Want to make your playoff experience even more intense? Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30 points, 40, or more? It's your call. Ready to place your first bet? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and lock in your bets, and let's make this playoff run unforgettable. And here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers, if you bet $5, you can get $200 in bonus bets instantly. So make it a playoff run to remember by downloading the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code DROP. Once again, that's the code DROP for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you just bet $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Have you tried Hey Dude shoes yet? I know I have. I got them on right now, and I have not tied my shoes in the last 6 months, and it's just making life so much easier. I got a newborn at home. I don't have time to be constantly tying my shoes. I mean, eventually I'll have to be tying his shoes, but right now, I just got to slip them on and get to work. Hey Dudes are the foundation of comfort, and they're just the ultimate slip-on shoes. They're lightweight, they're breathable, and they're ridiculously comfortable. I've been wearing them while playing in this Barstool mini golf tournament, and I've been on my feet all day. No aches, no pains, no discomfort. We're talking cushion insoles that feel like little pillows underneath your feet. Hey Dudes are designed to go wherever you go, and you know me, I go a lot of places. I'm constantly on the move. I need comfort. I need to be able to slip my shoes off when I'm on a long flight because my feet get sweaty on flights. I don't like to keep them cooped up. I like to get comfortable. So I take off my shoes, I take off my sweatshirt, ball it into a pillow, and I fall asleep. And it's all thanks to Hey Dude. If you're ready to stop tying shoes forever and start living in comfort, go to heydude.com today and find your perfect pair. Once again, that's heydude.com to find your perfect pair. Say goodbye to laces.
Today's episode of Drop a Pin is also brought to you by our friend at Mando. Folks, spring is in the air, the weather is warming up, and I'm most looking forward to just hanging out in my front yard, chilling, having a nice little adult beverage with the boys. I'm looking forward to it even more because we started using Mando whole body deodorant. Donnie's slathering up them pits right now with a fresh spring scent. He's going to be smelling good. Might even go home and fuck around and make baby number 2 because Mando's whole body deodorant is safe to use anywhere on your body. We're talking pits, we're talking balls, we're talking thigh folds, we're talking belly buttons, butt cracks, feet, probably even the little crevice between your vagina. Clinically proven to control odor. It's better than any shower with soap alone. It's 12 hours after a shower, the average man's grundle. We're talking taint, folks. The odor level is usually a 5 out of 10 with Mando. The average grundle odor is, wait for it, 0 out of 10. Ooh. Not a stinky grundle at all. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid deodorant stick, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like the mini body wash or the deodorant wipes. Huge fan of the deodorant wipes right after a golf round. It's incredible. They got free shipping too. As a special offer for our listeners, new customers get $5 off the starter pack with their exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when using the code WONTON at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando.
I had never used cream deodorant until I started using Mando.
Oh, yeah?
It is clutch.
Yeah, I like getting creamy. All right, let's get back into the show.
All right, that was a great interview with, what's his name again? No, I got it. Matthew Piper Jenks. Wonderful interview. And we talked a lot about Florence. We covered a lot of ground. But one thing we're going to try to always do on this pod is do a little deep dive with just me and Chaps. Sometimes it might just be 5 to 10 minutes. Sometimes it might be another 45 minutes.
We have heard the feedback that even in interviews you want to do a little deep dive on the place, so that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, and there are times, like with the Sam Talent interview, we have to put a location on the thumbnail, so we put Japan, but we probably only talk Japan for maybe 10 minutes of that.
Yeah.
So that's when it's useful to do one of these deep dives, especially when you got an interesting spot like Florence.
Yeah, for sure.
What sort of fun facts do you have? I mean, right off the bat, I saw that gelato was invented there.
Oh, are you a gelato guy?
I am a gelato guy.
What's the difference between gelato and Italian ice?
So Italian ice is always like no dairy really, but you can have like a creamy gelato as well. But what's the difference between gelato and ice cream? That's the really important question.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I think that's question number one.
I mean, it
People
is.
want
Man, I had some of the best gelato of my life in Kotor, Montenegro, believe it or not. It was this pistachio ice cream. And you know how a lot of the pistachio ice cream here in the U.S. it'll be like green and it's pretty sweet. This was a white pistachio gelato that was actually more salty than sweet. I fuck with a salty gelato.
Do you?
Yeah.
It probably is one of those things like dark chocolate is set off by salt, like sea salt makes dark chocolate like way better. It opens up the flavor profiles. Even like chocolate chip cookies. Like you're a real chocolate chip cookie guy when it's warm and you do fresh cracked sea salt over it.
Ooh, yeah.
Because it opens up everything.
And
I
that's
don't
why
know
like
if open up is the right
salted caramel is so good.
You want to know the difference?
Yes, I would love to know.
So ice cream usually has a higher fat content, around 10 to 18%. Gelato, because the Italians are more conscious about that, 4 to 8%. More gelato uses less milk and way less cream to make it still rich in flavor, but it's much lighter. Ice cream is whipped, where gelato is actually turned.
Oh yeah. I bet you there's places in Florence that like hand turn it.
Yeah, and you're not supposed to serve it as cold. So ice cream is served at -4 degree Fahrenheit, like for perfect, and gelato is served at 10 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah. And gelato, it's definitely like more smooth. It is silky smooth.
Which you
to
wouldn't
ice cream.
think with cream, like less cream.
Yeah. But I guess it's just I guess because it's like churned slower, that like smooths it out. Who knows?
Off the top of your head, best ice cream you've ever had?
I can only think of maybe the worst ice cream I've ever had.
Okay, let's do that.
Which was in Martha's Vineyard. I got lobster ice cream, but it had real chunks of lobster in it.
Yeah.
But I just, you don't really. I love almost every variation of lobster, whether it's a lobster Reuben I got at the Lobster Trap. That was delicious. I've made popcorn lobster, and I've made lobster popcorn.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is that? Just like Old Bay on popcorn?
No, all right. The popcorn lobster was just deep fried pieces of lobster. That was delicious.
Right.
The lobster popcorn did not come out that well. I just finely chopped leftover lobster, and then I tossed it with some butter in popcorn. So it sounds good, but all the pieces of the lobster just fell to the bottom.
And it had to make it real soggy.
Yeah.
too. That sounds like a terrible idea.
It made it pretty soggy too.
My worst ice cream that I ever had, there was this spot in San Antonio that was really cool. I took Dave and Big Cat there, but they had like maybe the most hipster type of ice cream that you could ever. It was Thanksgiving time. You know, sweet potato casserole?
Oh yeah, love it.
They had sweet potato ice cream with raisin and marshmallows.
Marshmallows sound good. I'm not a raisin guy really at all.
No, same.
Yeah, like I will eat them, but I don't even like them in my bagels. Like a cinnamon raisin bagel, I would prefer just a cinnamon bagel.
Have you ever had a steak that's like sprinkled with raisins on the top?
No,
Me either.
no, I have not. I do like sweet stuff, like some sweet stuff on top of the steak to kind of balance out the savoriness of it. But I would probably pass on raisins.
Same. All right, let's get into some other stuff.
Yeah, let's get back to Florence. Well, they also invented, I was seeing, the high heels,
Oh,
and they used to be worn by women and men.
hell yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that, because obviously some short kings these days wear platform shoes. But like men wearing just those high heels, that just why would you do that?
Especially in a walkable city like Florence.
Yeah. Where were high? Yeah. Just to confirm, this is now I just looked up on Google. They're saying they were invented in Persia, but I read that they were invented in Florence, spread to Europe. That's okay. Very, very controversial.
Yeah.
fuck?
People are getting into that, and ice cream versus gelato.
Yeah.
One of the good things about it that we do know that it was the birthplace of the Renaissance. Florence didn't invent art for sure, but they kind of put it back on the map after the Dark Ages.
Yeah. And it really goes to show you that, like, yeah, so all those famous artists, they, created what the pieces of art that the Renaissance were known for, like Michelangelo, the other Ninja Turtles. But none of that would have happened if it wasn't for the Medici family.
That's right.
Which were kind of the first big banking family ever. Like, Florence was really when banking became big.
Mm-hmm.
It became one of the banking capitals of Europe. I guess it's strategically located, even though it's not on like a port or a harbor. It's right in the middle between a bunch of different trade routes that like lead to the Mediterranean as well as Northern Europe. So it's kind of like, because it's more in northern Italy, from Florence, it's easy to get to the rest of Europe. And I don't really know how the Medici family became so powerful, but they sure did. They became one of the richest families in Europe, and they used their money to fund these just incredible works of art.
Yep. So Michelangelo, Da Vinci, Botticelli, Galileo, they also produced and like made sure that 3 people that they wanted to be the Pope rose to power and became the Pope. So you could easily say, like, you have the control of the Pope, you select the Pope, you're basically a kingmaker. It's like the Koch brothers here, pedophile.
Yes.
Or like what people think George Soros is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's that kind of thing. One thing from history that I don't think the super rich do now, maybe you could say Bill Gates a little bit, they don't use their extreme wealth for good like they used to. Like the Medici family, obviously, and then you have like the Carnegies, like that established the Carnegie library system in the United States.
Yeah.
Where he built like 2,300 libraries across the United States, primarily in super rural areas. Like still, almost every library in Maine was founded by the Carnegie family.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Like when we were going by, I went there for my 40th birthday, and almost every library we came across was a Carnegie library. Like, he not only funded the buildings, but the books inside.
Shout out to Carnegie's. I mean, these days we got Bezos. He's trying to like mine asteroids. I think that's one of his passion projects.
Yeah, but I think that's also for his own gain.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, like I don't
Just
like these guys did stuff like financing art for other things. Now, the Medici family probably was assholes too. They probably did some really bad shit. But looking at it, we don't have some of the things that we look at the most important from the Renaissance without the Medici family.
yeah.
Because imagine how much money it would take, or you couldn't do like the Sistine Chapel without somebody financing it and giving you a good amount of money. It's not like you could get that accomplished on your weekends.
No. No, that's a full-time job. I mean,
Full-time
it's still
gig.
insane that was done by one person.
Right. And how beautiful it is and how long it's preserved. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, think about the wars that have gone through there, the different conflicts that have happened.
Yeah.
And it's still in place. That's what's sad about areas like Syria and how many historical sites have been completely destroyed.
Yeah. No, it's sad.
Yeah.
It's like if you've ever seen a side-by-side of what medieval art looked like and then compared to what they were making in the Renaissance, it is like insane. Like some of that medieval art looks like a child did it. Like something that your kid brings home from kindergarten.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the Renaissance comes and they're making these like lifelike portraits, just like extremely intricate. It's amazing. And I don't really know like how we just became so much better overnight.
And then worse.
And then worse, yeah. I mean, culture in general comes in like waves. Because then if you go back to like Roman times, they were making some like beautiful pieces of art too.
Petra.
People just forgot how to like draw 3D in the Middle Ages.
Yeah. And what do you think the biggest mistake in COVID was?
What do I think the biggest? I mean, that's a loaded question.
It is. I think the biggest, we don't have to get into the medical side of it, but not wearing those pigeon masks from the Black Ages, from the Black Plague. You know,
That was not the biggest mistake. That wouldn't have made a big difference.
I disagree. You wear those bad boys in the operating room or as a nurse, I'm taking you way more seriously.
No, those are terrifying. Like
Yeah.
if I'm ever at the hospital and someone comes in wearing one of those were called like plague masks. I'm like, okay, I'm fucked. I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
But so Florence was known. So during the Black Death, the plague, they had these wine windows in the city. It was kind of just like a hole in a brick wall where someone could just hand you your wine without having to have any sort of contact with you. And that was so like the plague wouldn't be spread, but people could still get their wine. And I guess over the COVID pandemic, they started using them again. There's a photo of it.
Oh, that's cool.
I know. That's sweet.
That's like a better version than Yogi Bear and the apple pie.
Yogi Bear, he used to just steal the pie off the windowsill, right?
Windowsill, yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder why they cooled it on a windowsill. Maybe pre-air conditioning.
Yeah. I had a wine guy when I lived in Venice, and it was so you could just bring him like a plastic bottle or whatever, like whatever sort of. I think even if I brought him a bowl, and then he would just fill that up with wine. He had these big wine barrels, and it was cool. So you could actually like recycle bottles or something like that. You didn't have to go and buy a bottle of wine. You just brought some sort of container and choose the wine, and he would fill it up.
You know who stole that idea?
Who?
7-Eleven with slushy day.
Oh, so if you just bring a water bottle, you can fill that up with...
You could bring anything. You can bring like a 5-gallon bucket. There's been people that'll bring like kiddie pools in there.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, you can bring anything you want.
I haven't had a slushy in forever. I don't really miss it. Oh, a Slurpee.
Slurpee.
A Slurpee.
What's the difference? We already broke down ice cream versus
a
gelato.
Slurpee is just a name for a slushy. But have you ever had a slush puppy?
Oh yeah,
those were big in Massachusetts.
They were huge in Florida too.
Okay, those were good. Those are more just like crushed ice, and then you add the flavorings to it.
I think it's more, way less ice in it, and I think way more syrup. I used to love it because it had the white and red striped cups that came with it. And the puppy was absolutely adorable.
Yes, but I haven't seen slush puppies in forever.
Yeah, same.
Hopefully they're still around.
I bet at Buc-ee's or something like that.
Buc-ee's. I didn't get to go to Buc-ee's when I was in Tennessee. That's one of my big regrets.
You've never been to a Buc-ee's?
No.
That is shocking.
Yeah. So if you don't know what a Buc-ee's is, they only exist down south or like a few states?
They're spreading out. There's some in Indiana now.
Okay, it's like
Indiana, Florida, like all throughout that corridor.
And it's like the largest gas station you've ever seen in your life.
It's almost like a Walmart gas station. There's an entire wall that's probably 200 feet long at least of jerky, of different types of jerky.
Okay.
Like lemon pepper, anything you want. They also make their own jerky on site, like where they'll do the dehydrating of it. The best bathroom. If you want to go and shit on a road trip, find a Buc-ee's because they have like a full ass door. It's not like the ones that don't go all the way to the bottom. It's a full door. You have plenty of room.
All right, that's good. You won't have anybody trying to solicit you for a hand job.
That's exactly right. No,
like what happens
touching.
At the airport. Yep. Yeah. Florence was the first city with an income tax.
Oh,
yeah, that's interesting. I wonder why. Maybe just people were making way too much money, and they're like, some of this needs to go back to the city.
Mississippi signed a law a couple weeks ago that no more income tax for their state.
Okay.
They joined the list as like Florida, Texas, Tennessee.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. Like, because Mississippi probably needs more people.
Yeah.
Like Florida,
businesses.
Yeah. Whereas like Florida, they already have enough people. So many people like moved there over COVID and stuff. A lot of people moved there just for tax purposes, like Portnoy.
Yeah.
And Mississippi's like, how do we get some of those people moving here? I don't know. Is that enough to make you move to Mississippi?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Okay.
I mean, I remember the Brandon Walker episode.
Yeah.
So no, thank you. You're a Galileo guy, right?
Yeah. Now, actually, I don't know. It depends. Was Galileo the guy that figured out that the sun was at the center of our universe and not the Earth? Yeah. I'm a big Galileo guy because people wanted to kill him for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he got in like a lot of trouble with the church.
I mean, imagine going out and be like, "Hey guys, I have a scientific theory," and they're like, "You son of a bitch! How dare you?"
Yeah, that's the terrifying thing because the Medici family, they were supporting the arts, they were also funding the sciences, but they were like, all right, we only got to fund the sciences so much that we don't like only enough to the point where we don't piss off the church, just because the church was so powerful back then.
I mean, you see that still, like where different countries and culture are scared of new information that goes against what they have previously thought. I mean, we see that in North Korea with their fear of blue jeans.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they don't. Blue jeans are against the law in North Korea.
That's just because they're seen as very, very American.
Yeah, but I also think they're just scared of the technology. They don't know what to do with the little pocket in the front.
Yeah. And also it's just like in North Korea, you have to like, you can only wear a few like approved clothing items.
In North Korea or South Korea?
North Korea.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I think like all men there have these kind of like blue sports coats that they all wear. But I mean, jeans, it's crazy to think like when were jeans invented? They're not as old as you think.
I would bet off the top of my head, I would say 1905.
That actually sounds like a great guess. I'm going to go with
1873.
1873. Yeah. So not super old. And they're made from, were they originally made from, like, where does denim come from?
Denim trees, I think.
Like, why did it take us so long to invent jeans?
It originates from the French city of Nimes, where weavers accidentally created a durable cotton twill fabric while trying to replicate another fabric called serge.
I mean, it's clutch. It's the one type of clothing you don't really need to wash too often.
I'm wearing jeans right now.
I normally wear jeans probably 5 out of 7 days.
Nice.
6 out of 7 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the other things I like about Galileo, I'm a huge fan of relics.
Yeah. Who isn't? But I mean, are you talking about the Fugazi relics? I mean, I would say 90% of relics are
Yeah.
Fugazi, where it's like, oh, I have a piece of the original cross.
Yeah, or like the Martyr Stephen or something like that.
Yeah. Or the Shroud of Jesus.
Yep. Another one that they say is Jesus, one of the crowns from the crown of thorns.
Yeah.
They have dogwood that they say was part of the cross. So there's a lot that are centered around the Catholic Church, but Galileo's middle finger is on display.
Yeah. Now that is verifiable. It actually is his middle finger, and you can see it in Florence, I believe. And they also say that like Napoleon's penis is still around and preserved. Someone bought it at an auction not too long ago for maybe like $100K.
Whose? Napoleon's?
Napoleon's penis, but that can't be verified. Oh, that's
a long middle finger.
Yeah.
It's in like the Holy Grail looking thing. Pull up Napoleon's penis.
Yeah, let's see what's larger, Galileo's middle finger or Napoleon's penis.
He's short. He's got to have a little dick. No disrespect to the short kings out there. Oh yeah. Oh, they got a little bit of the balls in there too. Nice work. That might be. You know what that is? That looks a lot like the rabbit dildo, like vibrator, like where the bottom part would tickle the old clit.
It sure does.
Yeah.
I bet you there'd be a lot of girls out there that would gladly pleasure themselves to Napoleon's preserved penis.
And dudes. I mean, if I was rich, if I was Portnoy's rich, I am 1,000% buying Napoleon's cock. Without a doubt.
Not that expensive.
$100,000, right?
No, it was way cheaper.
Oh.
Dr. John Latimer, a renowned urologist, purchased what is claimed to be Napoleon's penis at a Paris auction in 1977 for $3,000, which is the equivalent to $15,500 in 2024.
I bet we could get that to try to buy it off of him from the pinheads if we do a GoFundMe. Imagine.
I don't think he's trying to sell it now. I think.
What if we had that on the wall?
You know, it would be incredible, and like that's something where like Portnoy would like laugh off $15,000. So it's like, but I don't think we could convince him to buy Napoleon's
We should
penis.
put a pin in this, and then when we have him on the show, ask him, put him on the spot.
No, right here it says the artifact is, so it's currently owned by that same by that urologist's daughter. She's already been offered at least $100,000 for it and has not sold it.
Damn.
Yeah, so she's keeping it for the long run.
Whose
Kinda like a
penis,
stock.
if you could buy anybody from history except for Jesus, whose penis would you want?
I'm just not in the market for preserved penises.
Okay.
It's not. Although when I had a layover in Reykjavik, Iceland, and I went to the Penis Museum.
Oh.
And it was actually pretty interesting. They had 100 different species of cocks. And they had I think they had a blue whale penis, which was taller than me.
Oh, that's got to be enormous. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine a whale trying to do it doggy style with the little penis. You can't do that.
No, although I remember hearing that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
I wonder.
Oh my God, that orca.
So, fun fact about elephants, their penis is so big that when they have sex, they don't actually put it in the vagina. They just spray a couple liters of semen all over the female elephant's vagina.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, it's nice, but it's that means they're not having that much fun. They don't get any penetration.
There's a lot of videos like that on Pornhub. People get into that.
Yeah.
I actually looked up some other sick relics, body parts that are on display places. One of those is St. Catherine the Great. Of Siena. She has her head and thumb on display in Siena, Italy, but her body is in Rome.
Wait. I think I've been to Siena. Yeah, that's where I saw the horse race we were talking about.
Oh.
Damn, I should have seen that.
Napoleon's death mask and hair, and maybe his penis is on display. The death mask is preserved along with clippings of his hair, and that's spread out in multiple museums in the UK, France, and the United States. St. Valentine's skull is on display. And King Richard III's entire skeleton is on display at Leicester Cathedral in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know in China, when I was at the Forbidden City, you could wait in line to see the preserved body of, was it Mao Zedong? Or maybe Shanghai Shek? Is Mao Zedong's body preserved?
Maybe Ted Williams, too. That's been a big rumor for a long time.
Yeah.
That Ted Williams was.
Damn. Oh, yeah. Well, he got his body frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're just going to wait and see if they ever have the technology to bring him back. But I think his cells are pretty damn dead.
That would be sick, though.
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah, Mao's embalmed body is publicly displayed in China still. The lines were always too long to see that.
Oh, you gotta. Yeah, that's one you gotta see.
We were talking about Napoleon, though, and when he was running train on Europe, he also stole a lot of art. So he invaded and conquered Florence in one of his campaigns, and I think took a lot of the art back to France. Some of it is still in the Louvre. He also, when he did a little side quest to Egypt, he brought an army of scholars. They were the first ones to really academically study Egypt, and they brought back tons of art as well. And not only art, I think there's a giant obelisk that's still on display in Paris that they took from Egypt. And then London, the Brits then captured one Napoleon ship that was leaving Egypt, and I think they have an obelisk on display now too. And I think there's an Egypt obelisk on display in New York.
Damn.
Yeah.
Did you see a couple weeks ago they found that there's a whole new tunnel system that is I think they said 500 feet deep or something like that that's underneath?
Oh, yeah. They said it was even deeper.
Did they?
Some crazy structures, but now I'm hearing conflicting reports. Some people say it's bullshit. I mean, I would love for that to be true.
Yeah. I feel like if you're a guy older than 40, I feel like eventually you have to start really caring about the pyramids.
Yeah. And just about I don't know. I hope we have one crazy discovery in my lifetime that completely changes history. That completely rewrites history.
Like dinosaurs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like George Washington didn't know about dinosaurs.
No, he didn't.
When you start talking about the founders of the Constitution and how genius they were, they didn't know about T-Rex.
They didn't. And I think at that point, like, people had found dinosaur bones around that time, but they were just like, oh, what are these? Maybe this is proof that giants used to exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or something
When
like
they
that.
did, just in reptile form.
Yeah. That was actually when they found a woolly mammoth skull for the first time. They used that as proof that the Cyclops from Greek mythology actually did exist. Because if you look at a mammoth skull, it looks like there's just one big eye hole in the middle.
Yeah, where the tusk was.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, mammoth bones look crazy. Oh, it's the eyes, where the eyes were.
Yeah, but that kind of looks like two eyes.
Yeah.
I don't know. They found
Oh, okay.
that one. It looks like it could easily be like
I
a
would buy
Cyclops.
that as a Cyclops for sure.
Yeah.
With like an elongated jaw and no teeth. Maybe not. Maybe I wouldn't buy
Yeah.
it.
Well, definitely. I'm pumped that Christopher Nolan is remaking the Odyssey, or he's making a high budget Odyssey film. We'll have to drop a pin in Greece when that comes out.
Have you ever read that book Achilles?
Uh,
I think it's called Achilles. I read it last year, and it's a novel based on Achilles, told from the perspective of what was his like companion's name? Starts with a P.
Poseidon.
No, that he's buried with, that Achilles was buried with. I forget what his name is. Good podcasting by me.
Okay, nice. It does have it's got the oldest, Florence does. It's got the oldest wooden bridge in the world, where I've actually gone shopping. It's very cool because it's a bridge, but then there's all these shops like built into the bridge. And it was, I don't know if it's, let's see. It's called the Bridge Vecchio, if you want to look up a photo. I almost bought my engagement ring there. They've got all these like jewelry shops on the bridge, but I ended up getting mine in Venice instead. Yeah, there it is.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and I think the Nazis, when they invaded Florence in World War II, they destroyed most of the bridges, but somehow that was saved.
Damn. That looks great. Can you do like gondola tours there?
No. Did not see any gondolas there, but they do have a river.
Yep.
But they have a river, but they don't have a lot of canals. This is a fun fact. It's not about Florence, but it's about Bologna, Italy, which blew my mind. So when I was in Bologna, they have like two really tall towers there, and they're so old that they're like leaning very badly. Like, people all know about the Leaning Tower of Pisa. There's a lot of leaning towers in Italy because they were like built so long ago that the ground starts to give way. But I didn't know at one point the city of Bologna in Italy had a straight up skyline. Like, they had tons of towers. Search skyline of Bologna, and this will blow your mind because you don't think of skyscrapers back. And then
Oh my God. I would have never guessed that.
Yeah, it looks like a modern.
Yeah, it looks like fucking Philadelphia.
Looks like Manhattan almost.
It's huge.
Because I guess like each family it was all a pissing war, and they would just kind of be like, well, I have so much money, I'm going to build a tower this tall. And every rich family in the city just had like a tower building competition.
Were they functional? Did they do anything?
Yeah, I'm sure they were used for stuff. I climbed to the tallest one that is still there in Bologna. It was pretty terrifying. There's just this rickety old staircase that goes up around the side.
I wonder why they're no longer there.
That photo blows my mind. Yeah. What?
Probably shellings are the reason why it's not there.
Shellings, and just like they probably got dangerous after a while.
Yeah, brick quality.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's only a couple left.
Damn.
Back to Florence, though, the Duomo, which we talked about, that was made without scaffolding, which I guess was a big deal at the time.
Yeah.
I don't even know how that works.
Do you know scaffolding's a multi-billion-dollar business in New York?
Yes, I learned about it from that show, How To, with John Wilson.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that.
Oh, you haven't? He does an episode all on scaffolding. And I guess it used to not be a huge business, but a brick fell off the side of a building and killed someone.
Killed the main owner of the scaffolding company's daughter.
Oh, really?
And so then he went to city council in New York and really pushed for a law that if you're going to be building anything higher than 2 stories, you have to have scaffolding that covers the sidewalk. And then as soon as that happened, he opened up a scaffolding business while that was going on, ordered a shit ton of scaffolding, and that family still has a damn near monopoly on it in New York.
Yeah, I think one of the laws he got passed is that every building in New York, you need to check all of the bricks like every 5 years. So that's why they'll like build scaffolding. Half the buildings you see in New York have scaffolding all over them because those people the building is undergoing a brick check.
And you probably say like, oh, it's not needed now. We have better building, but it's better to have it than not. Same thing with the fire regulations here in Chicago because of the Great Chicago Fire. Like there's still like in between apartments, they're supposed to have firewalls, or in between townhouses, it's supposed to have firewalls.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to die from a loose brick, but it has made New York a much uglier city, I'd say.
Oh, without a doubt, New York stinks. Like there's so many parts of New York that used to be much more aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
But now everything is how cheap can we get this build?
Yep. How cheap can we get a build? Half the buildings have scaffolding, garbage on the sidewalks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and Kate one time we were walking after a radio show. It's like 12:30 in the morning, and we were walking down. You remember where that sex museum is by the old office?
Yes.
Kate and I were walking down the street, and there was a trash bag that had split open. No less than 100 dildos in it.
Really?
She was like, I might circle back here and pick a couple of these up after you go to your hotel.
Once you use them, I don't know. I guess like a lot of people don't want to buy a secondhand dildo.
I don't think they're secondhand. I don't think you can go in the sex museum and absolutely rail yourself. I feel
Okay. Yeah, that's probably true.
that wouldn't be bad though.
Yeah. If they, I mean, I assume the sex museum has a gift shop on the way out where you can buy dildos.
Yeah, and it was funny because whenever you walk past the storefront, they would have the suction ones stuck to the storefront, like on the glass.
Oh, yeah.
Smart.
We used to have a giant dildo that was floating around the New York office. This was like a 2-foot.
Wasn't it the
dildo.
hand?
No, I mean, yeah, I saw the hand around the office too, but I would always just find that suction cup to a random part of the office.
Yeah. Anything else on Florence?
Not that I can think of. I think, as I said earlier during the interview, try to avoid it in July and August because it's just hot as balls and not a lot of air conditioning, but it's definitely worth checking out for the food, the history, the museums. David's Michelangelo's David is there, that has to be like the most famous sculpture on the planet or one of them.
Yeah, maybe Mount Rushmore is up there.
It's on the Mount Rushmore, and it's
But,
big.
I mean,
it's
David
not
would be across the globe. I think more than Mount Rushmore.
Oh, no, it's not. I thought you were saying it's on the Mount Rushmore of like most famous sculptures in the world. I don't think Mount Rushmore. Well, yeah, would Mount Rushmore make the Mount Rushmore of sculptures? That's the question.
That is a good question. So I would think, Statue of Liberty, does that count as a sculpture, you think? I would think so.
Yeah, it's hard to
because you can walk through it and everything.
Because I think like when I hear the word sculpture, I think of something that's been carved, whereas the Statue of Liberty was built.
Yeah. I think I'm going to have a very American perspective of it. I would also say Lincoln, inside the Lincoln Memorial, would be pretty high up there. Like as far as being recognizable.
I would think so. I don't know. I would like to travel somewhere abroad and ask, like, how many people know Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah.
He's got to be up there.
I bet not, actually. I bet he's not up there. I don't think most people would care about that part of our history. Because think about it, like, who abolished slavery in the UK?
I think it was just done by Parliament. Yeah, I don't know.
But there has to be a person that was leading that charge.
Yeah, yes.
You know, like, I don't think that people, and we don't know who that was in any other country.
Yeah.
So I would be doubtful that they would know. I mean, shit. I remember stories when I was in Iraq and we would talk to some of the locals about 9/11 and they would have no idea.
Yeah. That is something that like foreign governments always like use against us though. Like when Nazi Germany and Hitler was rising to power and like the rest of the world was like, you need to stop discriminating against Jews. He was just like, well, you did it to the blacks.
Right.
So you can't tell me what to do. And then like Iran, the president of like Iran or China, whenever we start to like talk about their human rights abuses, they're like, well, what did you guys do to blacks? Like,
Yeah.
you can't tell me what to do.
Yeah. True.
Quick trivia question.
And it's honestly fair. Like, because one of my least favorite things about World War II, I mean, just not least favorite, obviously, but at the end of it, when there was Nazi prisoners of war, black people weren't allowed to be in the same chow hall as white troops, but Nazis could. So they would eat with Nazi prisoners of war and American troops, or like white American troops, Italian American troops, like whatever ethnicity you were, unless you were black, they had to eat at a different cafeteria.
Yeah, it's crazy that was still going on in World War II.
Right. And Korea. Like, it didn't end until Jim Crow. I mean, the American military was desegregated before the South was, but it's still shocking.
Yeah. That is wild. And I think actually that was one of the things where like when black Americans, they went over to fight in Europe and they were like, oh, we're not being discriminated against. So then when they came back, they're like, well, why can't we just do it like they do it in Europe, where there are no rules about like where black people can go, where white people can go. And I think that actually like led to desegregation a bit, just from like them actually seeing what life was like in Europe at that time.
Yeah. It's crazy.
One last little trivia fact before we end the pod. Where do you think the tallest statue in the world is?
Maybe Brazil.
Nope. It is in India, and it is 597 feet tall, which it's got to be like 3 times the size of
Christ the Redeemer.
Well, like how tall is the Statue of Liberty? Not that you might not know.
I think like 300 and something feet, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's in. Yeah, see, so that just shows it. Yeah.
Oh, man, fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
305 feet.
305 feet. Yeah, it's called the Statue of Unity in Gujarat, India, and it depicts Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel.
Crushed it.
And I can't I guarantee you not a single person in this office has any idea who that is. And he's got the largest statue of anyone. That's like pretty badass.
That is. What is it made of? Is it stone? It doesn't really look like stone, but maybe it is stone. I mean, how do you make something like that and not make a mistake? I mean, chiseling that out by hand.
No, so that was built. That wasn't carved.
Okay.
Yeah, it was made with a steel framework and bronze cladding. Yeah,
okay.
If that was carved, I mean,
how?
Yeah, you would just need like the largest rock of all time. I don't even see how.
Brought to you by our good friends at Lowe's.
Yeah.
The chisel section.
Yep.
All right, let's hop into some Gettin' Cultured. All right, welcome back to Gettin' Cultured. Today we have first time Dapper.
Yeah.
Mark Titus, glad to have you.
I'm happy to be here, boys.
Yeah, and you're becoming quite a travel guy yourself.
I have, I'm branching out to basically outside of North America. I've been to every state in this country. I've been to a lot of Canadian provinces. I think I've actually been to every Canadian province.
Nice.
Because
I was Saskatchewan.
I was a big road trip guy in my 20s, and I would just look at a map and get in a car and drive to places I'd never been to. But now I feel like I've seen it all here, so I'm like getting out to Europe and trying to see what that's all about. So yeah, I'm trying to travel, get a little more cultured.
Okay. Was your honeymoon your first trip to Europe?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You did like
Switzerland and
Switzerland,
France.
yeah.
Yeah, Switzerland was incredible. Switzerland was not the cheapest place in the world, but it was awesome, yeah. Everything was really nice.
I think we'll
That's
have
cool.
you on for a full episode
Yeah.
to recap that trip. Now it's just getting cultured. So if you want to pick our brains about anything travel related, feel free.
I have one issue that's on my mind, and this is I think it's relevant for both of you. Donnie, you are a new father. Chaps, you've been a father for a while now. I have we have one in the oven that's popping out in June. I will be a first-time father. And my wife and I are, like I said, we're traveling a lot more. It's become very important to us, especially like summertime, to like find places we've never been to and go together. But the kid is coming, and we're worried about what traveling with children looks like in terms of, one, do you do it or you just leave them home? When you decide that you want to go on a vacation, are you taking their needs into consideration? Is it like always go somewhere where like the kids would like it, or do you take them to the places that you want to go to and just tell them to suck it up and all that? It's something that we're a little bit worried about, because I think there's a lot of this world. Like I said, this is the only time I'd ever been to Europe was our honeymoon. I want to go see all of Europe. I don't know if like taking like a 3-year-old with me makes a ton of sense. Do I leave him home? Do I just do Disney World all the time for my child? I have pre-anxiety about trying to see the world, but also having a child with me.
All right, so I am a firm believer, and this goes like parenting advice across the board, that children are basically dogs. Like when you have a dog, you have to condition them. So like if you brought your 3-year-old to France, for example, and they're not used to walking around in a stroller all day or like doing all those things all day, it's going to be a very, very difficult process for them. The biggest part of travel is timing. So your kid hopefully will be on a schedule, like eating schedule, all of those schedules. Try as hard as you can to make sure that those schedules aren't interrupted. Because when you have all of those scheduling things that are completely different, it can be overwhelming for a kid. And I think like at the younger age that Donnie wants to travel, like 6 months old, the big thing there is preparation. Like if your kid is on a bottle at that point, then make sure that you can do that on a plane. And one big tip there is preload all of your bottles with the formula if you're a formula family. So then when you get on the plane, you could tell them they'll all have hot water from the coffee machines. So you can do like 2 ounces of the hot water and then like 2 ounces of cold water, and it'll make it warm on the plane. I see a lot of families that are like, oh, it's lukewarm, the baby doesn't want it. You don't have to do that.
Okay.
I have a question. Say if your baby is breastfeeding, don't they like make shirts that kind of hide your boobs? So if you just want to breastfeed from your airplane seat, you can do it?
Yeah,
No shit.
there's shirts that you can open up and it'll have like a little nipple titty spot.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so you don't just have to be dumping them out on the plane in front of everybody?
Nah, you can do full nips out. And also, so many people are worried about kids on a plane. Fuck those people on a plane.
Yeah.
Like you have to travel too. And if you can't buy noise canceling headphones, stop being poor.
So I plan on traveling a lot with my kid, but I haven't yet. The only advice I got from one guy, he said it was easier to travel with his baby before they learned how to walk.
Yes.
Before they were really
okay.
moving around.
1,000%.
Okay.
Yeah, because then they're just like a little lump that you carry around.
Interesting.
And do whatever you do. If like maybe they'll be cranky, but if you feed them, they'll quiet down, and you can kind of just go about your like what you'd be doing even without a kid. But once they start moving, like you got to have eyes on that.
Do you feel like your strategy, for lack of a better term, on picking where you would like to vacation or where you would like to go will change now that you're a father? If you're bringing the kid with you, and Chaps, did it change for you? Do you like, or is it just like I said earlier, like you're just kind of like, no, I'm going to do what I want to do, and the kids can come with me?
I think there is some balance there. Like you're not going to go to Thailand and like go out and party with your kid. But I think if you do things that are relaxing in nature, or even like museums at a young age, I think you're going to be okay. But again, like take your kids to the museum here in Chicago before, so you like.
So they're used to doing that, yeah.
Right. But I did a 17-hour flight with my kid from Japan to Detroit when my kid was like 8 weeks old.
Oh, wow.
And I think that flight was easier than when I brought Kelsey back and she was 3.5. When 3.5-year-old flying that far, it's the closest I ever got to killing myself.
Oh my God.
It was absolutely awful. Like imagine keeping a puppy again,
Right.
like little kids or dogs, like keeping a puppy in a chair for that long.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible. However, on TikTok recently, I saw a new thing that looks awesome where you can connect it to the seatbelt of the plane, and then it goes into the front pocket, and it creates almost like a couch for a little kid. So they can be
Interesting.
completely passed out. Because a big issue when you're doing a long flight is, like I said, routine and them taking naps and stuff like that. If they have a place to lay flat like they do at home, it makes it so much easier. And Benadryl. Drug those
Benadryl, just
fuckers.
drug them up. Drug them up. Donnie, are you anticipating a pivot in like where you're gonna try to go, or are you just like, I'm just gonna stick with my instinct and figure it out?
I mean, in terms of family trips.
Yeah, just in terms of like, were you and your wife vacation traditionally, and now there's a third party introduced to the mix? Do you think it's going to change like how you figure out where to go, or are you just going to keep doing what?
I mean, my wife was all gung-ho about trying to take our kid to Thailand when he's like a year.
Oh, really? Yeah.
But, I mean, my thoughts on that is that his first flight will be when we fly to Boston for the 4th of July. So that's only like a 2.5-hour flight. We'll see how he does. Maybe at some point we'll take a 4-hour flight. If he passes those tests, then yeah, maybe we would try to like bring him to Thailand. And her idea is like, when we're in Thailand, we wouldn't be running around doing all this stuff. We would just try to get a spot that's like close to the beach and just be like hanging out on the beach, you know?
Yeah. Well, this is all encouraging because I'm excited to start getting out there, but then as I'm excited to do that, this baby's going to ruin everything, is what I thought.
Another young baby tip. If they, like, let's say they normally eat at 2 p.m., don't feed, like, have your flight scheduled for like 2:30. Make them very, very hungry around time of takeoff. So then they're eating and swallowing, so their ears pop naturally instead of like, because they don't know to swallow. They don't know how to chew gum. So if you make sure that they're doing like on a nipple, like either plastic or real, they will pop their ears.
Pop in their ears.
And then they'll go into a milk coma for most of the flight.
Yeah, exactly.
Another tip that I've heard is like the holy grail of travel strollers is the Duna. I heard Big Cat talking about it. Now, kids grow out of the Duna after like a year, so I think Big Cat probably has a Duna that he's no longer using. I've been meaning to ask him if I can just have his
just
old
go
Duna.
get the Duna.
Because it's not cheap. It's like a $600 stroller, and it's not a stroller you would just use around Chicago. It's just made for travel because it's so lightweight and it just like packs up real small. So yeah, I'm gonna ask Big Cat for his old Duna.
You should also ask for his hand-me-downs of the kid, because you have a kid that'll be.
We've
right
already
outside the
collected
age.
tons of clothes. I think I'm going to have some hand-me-down diapers you can use.
Wait.
Well, no,
Wait,
just
hold
hand-me-down
on.
diapers. Not
Unused?
Oh,
no,
your natural diapers?
unused,
Oh.
diapers. I think I got like
My son shit in these, and now your son can shit.
I wiped them out. You're fine.
I have a lot of diapers. I don't think I'll be able to use them all before the time he grows out of that size. So if that's the case, you're getting my leftover diapers.
Well, all right. This is encouraging stuff.
And kids fly free while they're under the age of 2.
Oh, I don't even think I knew that.
Yeah.
These
So-
are all things I don't even think about.
Highly recommend still getting a seat.
Okay. Still get their own seat.
Get their own seat, one, for changing purposes, because sometimes like
okay. I
the
never thought about
bathroom
that.
there can be
Yeah.
a little bit cramped. So if you get another seat, and again, fuck everybody else. Your baby has a blowout, change it.
Yeah.
One last advice for you. So you're having a summer baby born in June.
Right.
I was born in June too. I guess my parents had the option to like put me in either the grade above or the grade that I was in. I'm so grateful they put me in the lower grade, so I was one of the older kids in my grade. Mainly just because I looked at like the kids a year above me in high school, and I don't think I would have like meshed with them as well.
Right.
And my life would have taken a vastly different
Wow.
I failed kindergarten
if
the first
I was
time.
like, but I don't know if you would have to be like holding your kid back to like
That's a lot of pressure. I gotta make the right decision.
Well, what I did, I was a July baby, and I went to kindergarten in the younger side, and then failed out. I got real nervous, so I had to. But Miss Whitaker was also a fucking bitch.
Listen,
I've heard that.
if I was
about Miss
if I was in
Whitaker.
the grade above me, probably would have been a drug addict, loser,
Yeah.
unsuccessful.
Wow.
But I was put in the grade I
That's a lot.
was.
Wow.
You know.
Yeah.
It was a lot easier to make friends. So there's
all right.
there's a lot of
no pressure, but also don't fuck that up.
Yeah, don't
Change
fuck-
the course of my kid's life forever.
Yeah.
right.
So yeah, just do what feels right to you.
Do what
Yeah.
feels right. All right.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right,
cool.
thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.